Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Rebirth of the Red Dragon. Self-discipline becomes stronger. Chapter 1. Shilin played with friends all night last night, but when he closed his eyes this morning, he found that he seemed to be in a state of half asleep and half awake. And now Shilin only feels that he is surrounded by a sticky liquid. Strangely, Shilin did not feel the suffocation, but as warm as if he was in his mother's arms. It feels very strange. In order to find out the source of this feeling, Shilin opened his eyes from half asleep and half awake. Am I dreaming? Shilin looked around incredulously, and what he saw was no longer the familiar cement wall. It is a crimson wall with pentagonal patterns like a honeycomb. With the introduction of the strange wall in front of him, Shilin finally saw the liquid that had wrapped himself up. I don't know if it was because of the open eyes, Shilin still smelled the pungent sulfur smell from the liquid. But for some reason, the pungent sulfur smell is now so refreshing in Shilin's eyes, just like smoking. What is this? Before Shilin finished speaking, he realized that what he said turned out to be a low roar like a tiger. Shilin suddenly fell into contemplation. As an old bookworm in Phyllu, he seemed to understand that he seemed to have passed through. As for why it's not a dream, that nonsense. Has anyone ever had such a real dream? Now it looks like that crimson wall is an eggshell. In this way, I should have become an oviparous animal. Why are they low-grade oviparous animals? Shilin was unwilling to vent in the eggshell, and then he was a little unwilling to see what his hands and feet looked like. When I didn't know the result, I was shocked when I saw it. On's body is flushed red, like a solid lava, revealing a hot breath. This is no ordinary animal. Shilin immediately wondered whether he had traveled to another continent. Has it become a strange beast? While Shilin was still thinking about what kind of animal he was, the dragon mother Danier outside was beaming with joy. She is an ancient red dragon who has lived in Western Fantasy continent for 2,000 years. In the dragon clan who had a long life, Danier was already very old when she was young. However, due to the characteristics of the older dragons, the stronger the dragons, coupled with her being the strongest red dragon among the 5-color dragons, her strength is very powerful. Coupled with the arrogance of the red dragon, she fought around to snatch the treasure, and finally attracted countless people to rise up and organize the dragon-slaying alliance to fight against her. But the strength of the red dragon can actually be defeated by the alliance. In the end, Danier defeated the so-called dragon-slaying alliance after paying a certain price. Originally, Danier could retreat all over, but it's a pity that the opponent has an ancient golden dragon and an extremely old silver dragon in the alliance. So Danier was hit hard, so she was forced to flee in desperation and came to the own site, the Flame Mountains. The original dream of establishing the Red Dragon Empire was shattered, and Danielle was very angry but to no avail. Since she spent her youth in battle, she did not leave a child belonging to On. In addition, she has lost her fertility, so she has a small hobby, that is, collecting dragon eggs. The Red Dragon in the Flame Mountain group was originally more than Danier. This is the gathering place for many red dragons incubating eggs. However, since Daniel's strong arrival, it has become Daniel's private territory, and no dragon wants to challenge a red ancient dragon. The first thing that Danier did to occupy this place was to scrape the dragon eggs and collect all the dragon eggs nearby. Then they were hatched in their own nests. As for the eggs left by other species, they all became Danny's snacks. This is the overbearing place of the red dragon. No matter what species it is, even the golden dragon, the head of the metal dragon, has to take orders from itself. The temper of the red dragon is well known in the world. Without the help of the golden dragon and the silver dragon, the dragon-slaying alliance would never have been formed. And just like this, Danielle relied on this method to hatch young red dragons, and dozens of red dragons lived on her territory. These red dragons were all children she hatched, and her reputation was also spread by the passing bards, the flame dragon mother of the Flame Mountains. It's just that the life of the red dragon is nourished, and the nearby creatures don't think so. Because of the red dragon's appetite, it is on a volcano behind. The bones of the mountains and plains have long been piled up, and the height of the piles is as high as the mountains. Now Danielle also likes this kind of life. Unlike her previous campaigns, she only wants to be a good dragon mother. Just now, Danier saw Shilin's eggshell move, and the experienced she immediately understood that the egg was about to hatch. Ever since, Danier picked out Shilin with her barbed claws, and then tapped the dragon egg lightly. The reason for this is to speed up the rate at which the young dragon emerges, and also to increase the hatching rate of the dragon egg. Click. Shilin had stayed well in the eggshell, but felt that the wall seemed to be cracked. It seemed that I could see a ray of light directly coming in. Is Daddy going out finally? Shilin couldn't help but be overjoyed, and hurriedly stretched out his short forelimbs at any time, breaking them hard along the crack. See. More and more cracks were covered with eggshells. Danier was already prepared. She couldn't wait to see this newborn baby dragon. Click. Accompanied by this crisp sound, a small red claw covered with liquid protruded from the eggshell, showing the vitality of the young dragon. Light. Shilin couldn't help yelling. He finally felt the dazzling light, and he succeeded. Excitedly, he stretched out his other hand and broke it again from the mouth of the broken egg, and his whole body slipped out. The whole body was covered with slimy liquid, but Shilin didn't care because he was already shocked by the sight in front of him. A behemoth was standing in front of him, almost filling the cave. Shilin swallowed subconsciously. This one should be his mother, right? After all, if it weren't for the role of mother, he would have eaten himself when he was still an egg. How could you even wait for yourself to speak out? Daniel's head was covered with terrifying rocky horns, and the double horns bent backward were like a pair of crowns. The color of the scales is like a stone in magma, exuding hot heat, and the whole body is slender. The limbs looked very strong, and sharp crimson bone spurs hung on the thick dragon tail. The most outstanding thing is the dragon wing behind that. Even if it is not unfolded, it has already filled the space in the cave. If this is unfolded in full force, the cave will collapse immediately. The red dragon's domineering posture was vividly displayed on Dani's body. Judging from her expression, she should be very happy at this time. The scary eyeballs like a lava ball opened, and the vertical pupil was observing Shilin. There is one thing that Danier needs to check now, and that is whether the opponent is a purebred red dragon. As for how to check, as long as it is a red dragon of purebred blood, it will have the memory of belonging to the dragon clan at birth. In this memory, the red dragon will acquire its own name, dragon magic, and dragon knowledge, dragon fighting, and so on. And now Danier is waiting for Shilin to tell the real name of own dragon. While Shilin was still lamenting the size of the dragon mother, an ancient torrent containing information about the dragon, mixed with complicated dragon words appeared in Shilin's mind. My dragon's real name is Silin Raymond Gattuso Caesar. Silin subconsciously called out his own name. The dark and esoteric dragon language seemed extremely proficient in Shilin's mouth, as if it were the language he had used for tens of thousands of years. Although this shout was a bit young, the momentum of the future king had already begun to emerge. Because he accepted the memory of the dragon family, Shilin also understood his own identity, the red dragon, the head of the five-color dragon. Symbol of domineering and arrogant. And what stood in front of him at this moment was not his biological mother, but his adoptive mother Danielle. And Shilin finally knew why the red dragon was so arrogant. With the direct inheritance of memory, it would be strange if he was not arrogant. You know you are at the top of the food chain when you were born, just like someone who knows your richest son when you were born. It's not arrogant. After hearing Shilin's real name of dragon, the flame dragon mother finally showed a kind smile, and several years passed. Finally, a real dragon was born, not the incomplete hybrid. After all, these eggs were picked up by Danier, and Danier, who needs to look similar to the red dragon egg, can't be recognized. Only when the dragon egg hatches, can Danier know what it is inside. Not only that, even if it is a red dragon that is hatched, there is a high chance that it will not be inherited by the red dragon in its infancy. Shilin was finally relieved when he saw the dragon mother who showed his aunt's smile, and it seemed that he could survive. Because according to the inheritance of the red dragon, as long as the young dragon can tell the real name of own, it is the red dragon that is favored by the dragon queen Tiamat. According to the rules, Danielle must bear the responsibility of raising Shilin to grow up. At least when Shilin was a young dragon, she must do it. After getting used to the body, hunger followed. Shilin licked the liquid on his body according to the tradition. After licking his body clean, he turned around and ate the eggshell. A creaking sound rang in the cave, but Danier still did not speak. In Daniel's view, admiring the behavior of the young dragon is also a kind of show. As the red dragon's eggshell, It is full of abundant energy, and this energy is about to better develop the red dragon's physical potential. Promote the first growth of the red dragon, so that the red dragon will not fall into a weak state at birth. As long as the young red dragon is able to fight against some small predators, there is no problem. The dragon race will teach the red dragon how to spend its own childhood and ensure that it will live to adulthood. Ding! Congratulations to the host for the successful traversal. Scanning the host. Detected that the host is a red dragon, and the current system is a host modification. Ding! Congratulations to the host for gaining self-discipline to become a stronger system. Now open daily self-discipline tasks. Task 1. Complete 20 push-ups and gain strength +1. Task 2. Complete 20 squats, gain speed +1. Task 3. Complete a swim in the magma and gain +1. Host: Shilin. Creature: Red Dragon, Chaotic Evil. Attack: 10 Ordinary Young Red Dragon 8. Defense: 7 Ordinary Young Red Dragon 5. Speed: 9 Ordinary Juvenile Red Dragon 8. Physique: 7 Ordinary Young Red Dragon 5. Magic: none. Abilities: Bite, Tear, Flame Breath. Evaluation: you are no different from a beast now. System: Shilin never thought that he had awakened a system. You must know that even if there is no system, Shilin can easily become the overlord-level dragon of the Western fantasy continent. But perhaps because Shilin was a translator, the two souls overlapped. Shilin's soul is more than twice as strong as the young red dragon, and the strength of his soul has caused him to gain more inheritance. Now Shilin also knows that the Western fantasy continent is only a corner of the main universe. In addition to the Western fantasy continent, there are countless multi-universes, and Red Dragon does not even make the top 50 in the multi-universe. Originally, Shilin only thought that Western fantasy continent was his endpoint, but he didn't expect it to be the starting point now. Diverse universe. Hey, Shilin seemed to be able to see himself soaring in the multi-universe. When Shilin was in a daze, Daniel thought that Shilin had accepted the inheritance again. You must know that the inheritance of the dragon clan will be slowly unlocked as it grows. After all, many more advanced dragon magic young dragons can't understand at all. In addition, if there is too much inheritance, it is easy to turn a young dragon into a fool. Now Shilin is accepting the inheritance for the second time. Doesn't it mean Shilin has a talent for magic? In the childhood of the red dragon, the more inheritance received, the stronger the soul. And the strength of the soul is often linked to the strength of the magic that is displayed. You are great, Shilin, and your talent surprised me. Danielle finally spoke, and when she spoke, she was complimenting Shilin. After speaking, Danier lowered her huge body and licked the mucus left on Shilin's body. This means that Shilin has been highly recognized by Danielle. When one dragon licks another dragon, it shows that the relationship between them is very good. This may happen often on the side of Yinlong, but it is very rare on the side of the overbearing red dragon. Quote? Shilin tilted his head. Why this dragon mother suddenly praised herself? But why do I feel extremely excited? Perhaps this has something to do with the arrogance of the red dragon, but the red dragon likes the other party to praise himself most. The red dragon hates lies, but the kind of vain praise makes the red dragon feel refreshed. Now Shilin subconsciously raised his chest and raised his head, revealing a confident expression. After Daniel saw the appearance of Shilin, a young dragon, she just wanted to give Shilin a simple verbal reward. He didn't expect Shilin to move suddenly, and then lay down on the ground. Forelegs began to bend, and then propped up his body. Danielle. That's right, Shilin now sat up and pushed up on the spot. The most urgent task now is to complete system tasks, and self-discipline can make oneself stronger. But Shilin couldn't think of his series of actions at all, and she was bewildered by Danier. Why is this dragon fat? How can it make such a strange movement on the spot? Shilin ignored Daniel's current surprise, and now he has to concentrate on putting everything on push-ups. 18, 19, 20. Congratulations to the host for completing task 1 and gaining power +1. In an instant, a warm current entered the meridians of Shilin. I feel that I have become stronger. Shilin squeezed his paw excitedly, and the change just now was clearly felt. Shilin, what are you doing? When Danier saw Shilin finally stopped, she couldn't help but ask. Hello, great flame dragon mother, this is a way of training that can be strengthened in my memory inheritance. Shilin had already figured out the countermeasures, but he was indecisive and passed on from the dragon clan. Memory inheritance. Exercise method. Danielle was even more confused when she heard this sentence. Why is there no way to exercise this in the own heritage? But soon Daniel stopped thinking about this. After all, geniuses would always be taken care of. Danier thought Shilin's exercise method was bestowed on him by the Queen of Five Colors. Seeing that Danielle was deceived by herself, Shilin started squatting again. Squats are much more difficult than push-ups. This is what Shilin, who is a red dragon, wants to say. Now the young self can't support the predecessor at all, and can only barely lean against the wall to do it. Soon, Shilin completed this task again. Congratulations to the host for completing task 2 and gaining speed +1. Finally finished, Shilin finally felt a little tired after doing this squat, and the main hind limbs were too weak. If it were an ancient dragon of Danier's level, it would be fine to do 100 million. Shilin continued to work hard and came to the magma next to the lair. At this time, the magma was flowing slowly in the cave, making a grunting sound. It exudes a blazing high temperature, but it is very warm to the red dragon. It still looks a little scary. Shilin couldn't help saying. After all, this is the first time I have been so quiet from magma. But now I am a red dragon. The inheritance of memory has told him that this magma is not harmful to the young self. After seeing the magma for a while, Shilin jumped down. As soon as he entered the magma, Shilin felt as if he had entered the hot spring. The mucus remaining on the body's scales was washed away, revealing bright red partial dragon scales. It feels like being in heaven, ecstatic. However, in order to complete the task quickly, Shilin made a circle directly around the rock wall. After swimming, Shilin couldn't wait to jump onto the shore. Congratulations to the host for completing task 3 and gaining physique +1. Host. Shilin. Creature. Red dragon, chaotic evil. Attack. 11 ordinary young red dragon 8. Defense. 7 ordinary young red dragon 5. Speed. 10 ordinary young red dragon 8. Physique. 8 ordinary juvenile red dragon 5. Magic. None. Abilities. Bite, tear, flame breath. Evaluation. You are no different from a beast now. What is a beast? I am an extremely noble red dragon. Shilin expressed strong opposition to systematic reviews, and he is a red dragon. Danielle. What the hell is this cub doing? Is there really this kind of exercise method? Now Danier is more and more suspicious whether her own cub has received too many memories, making her brain silly. As a result, at the next moment, Shilin's body expanded half a circle at a speed visible to the naked eye. Daniel. Sigma, Su D winking face, Su. This is really useful. Shilin's originally folded wings opened at this moment. The dark red wings spread out like red wings and show off. Now Shilin can simply glide in midair, and it's too early to fly. After all, he was born less than a day, and the red dragon will appear at least a week later. The wings will expand to the maximum, and then learn to fly according to memory. Very hungry. Shilin, who had increased in size by a half circle, suddenly felt hungry. Obviously he was still filling his stomach just now. It is worth mentioning that the stomach of the red dragon is similar to a melting pot. So no matter what it eats, the red dragon can digest it, including plants, rocks, or even soil. But some red dragons would rather starve to death than eat those things. This comes from the arrogance in the bones of the red dragon. Great dragon mother Daniel, I'm hungry. Shilin lay on the ground weakly and then slid into the magma. As for why not drink magma, it is because this piece of magma has been soaked by the previous red dragon. Shilin didn't want to drink other dragon bath water. Don't worry about my child Shilin, I have already asked Felicia to prepare food. When Danier saw this egg about to hatch, she asked own daughter Felicia to prepare a nutritious meal. Good mother. Shilin changed his name by the way, and the dragon mother and dragon mother called each other, which would seem extraordinarily unusual. This will make Danier feel uncomfortable. You must know that dragon mother is the title given to her by humans. She prefers her own child to call her mother directly, and she always calls her mother dragon. Just like the human world has always been called foster mother. If Shilin keeps screaming like that, doesn't it mean that you always remind yourself all the time? You are not Danier's own son, you will definitely take revenge on Danier in the end. Sure enough, after seeing Shilin change her name, the smile on Daniel's face almost couldn't hide. Immediately the nutritious meal came to the child, that is the most delicious human woman. Danier smiled slightly, she was very happy to have such a genius son as Shilin. Human woman, Shilin couldn't help but twitched at the corner of his mouth. If Felicia really brought it, would he eat it or not? Mother, I'm back. A huge young red dragon walked in. Compared with the giant dragon mother, her body is obviously much smaller. But it is worth noting that her tail is half longer than the average red dragon. And it should look more vivid, like a deadly snake. The scale armor on her body looked as thick as heavy armor, and the curved dragon horns swept back, showing her age. What about human women? Danny's eyes turned bad, and she didn't ask Taoist like Aura. She only saw Felicia walk in with a fire lizard in her mouth. Sorry, mother, I didn't catch a human woman. Felicia lowered her head deeply, like a child who made a mistake. You know that Felicia is a grown-up red dragon, but the pride that belongs to the red dragon is completely absent. She was also the dragon egg child that Danier picked up, and decided to follow Danier when she became an adult. In front of Danier, she didn't dare to make any trouble, and she was extremely loyal to Danier. It is a very rare red dragon. In the Flame Mountain group, the red dragon group of life respects Daniel very much, because she feeds most of the ethnic group. Without Daniel, there would be no red dragon group of this size today. Tell me, why didn't you do it? Even with her own children, Danielle is still so strict. The reason for being so gentle with Shilin now lies in the young dragon, and has not done anything that disgusts her. But Felicia did not complete the task she gave. Great Mother, your brilliance shines in the entire Flaming Mountains. Countless red dragons thrive under your protection, and they have created such a prosperous group of red dragons. Because of such a large group of red dragons, the place where humans live is very far away from us. Not even a village has been found, and the human caravan passing by is completely dependent on luck. Felicia explained with exhaustion that all the human beings in the vicinity of life had been eaten up. Where can humans dare to live here? I can't wait to move as far as possible. After hearing Felicia's praise of own language, Danielle's expression eased a lot. Felicia, this is not the reason you didn't complete the task, you should know. There is no village nearby, can't you go to other red dragons to ask for it? Daniel said coldly. Human women are actually items traded between red dragons. Some red dragons will raise humans, catch some men and women and let them reproduce by themselves. And they can go to other red dragons to exchange for gems with their children. Red dragons who want to try new things usually endure hardship and exchange gems for humans to taste. But poor Felicia couldn't even get the gems. All her belongings were placed in the gleaming pile of treasures under Daniel's body. This is the price for the red dragon to pursue a powerful red dragon and dedicate his most precious treasure. That's why it's incredible that Felicia can follow Daniele. Sorry, it was my wrong, mother. Felicia knew that Daniel needs to step down. As a powerful ancient dragon, Daniel's face red dragon will give it. But if the red dragon is to give the treasure to Daniel, they would rather leave the Flame Mountains. Otherwise, Felicia had long been relying on Daniel's identity to find other red dragons to come to the human girl. Ha! Danier snorted softly, and a group of flames burst out of her nose, like two entangled fire dragons. Eat, my dear boy. Danielle regained her kind smile. But Shilin knew that Daniel's face was definitely a bit embarrassed now. After all, she had just said that there were human women as nutritious meals. In the next second, Felicia said that she hadn't brought it back, which was Two-Face. Although the flaming lizard is not more delicious than human women, the smell of fire in it can better stimulate the potential of our young red dragon. I really like this nutritious meal prepared by Felicia Big Sis, mother. Shilin took this opportunity to tell Danier not to be angry with Felicia. This is an important step in establishing a good relationship with own brothers and sisters. When Felicia heard the young freshman little brother Shilin talking for herself, she immediately cast a grateful look at Shilin. You should thank yourself for having such a little brother, Felicia. Danier's faint eyes looked down at Felicia. Felicia lowered her head again in fear. Although knowing that Daniel would not kill herself, the terrifying pressure from Daniel made her dare not breathe. Then this vast sea of pressure dissipated, and Felicia was saved. Daniel turned around to see the other eggs that had hatched. According to the current progress, one more egg was about to hatch today. Felicia sniffed Shilin. She wanted to remember the taste of Shilin, and repay Shilin's kindness in the future. Any dragon is the master of Yazi's retribution, and of course they will repay if they are sentimental. It's just that the premise is based on not talking about money. The body of the blazing lizard was placed in front of Shilin, and it was more than 3 meters long. Its appearance is light red all over, like an enlarged iguana. There are also yellow lines that resemble the shape of flames, and they can breathe fire in their mouths, so they are killed by the flame lizard. The flesh of the blazing lizard is rich in fire power, which is one of the energy that the young dragon needs very much. For young dragons, the flame lizard is also a rare delicacy. From this point of view, it shows that Felicia is really attentive. It's not her fault that she couldn't catch humans. Shilin bit on the back of the blazing lizard, and his sharp baby teeth easily bit through the skin of the blazing lizard. The fire lizard's skin defense is vulnerable to the red dragon, just like tofu. The hot blood leaked into Shilin's mouth, causing Shilin's whole body to agitate. As Shilin chewed and swallowed in his mouth, the fire power in the meat reacted, bursting out a few fires from time to time. For ordinary people, if you eat raw or unprocessed flaming lizard meat, it will definitely burn your body. But to the red dragon, this was an unexpected delicacy, and the flame was not worth mentioning in their eyes. When the meat was swallowed into the stomach, the melting pot of stomach suddenly began to work. The scene in his stomach was like a sea of fire, burning the sky. But Shilin outside was delicious. This blazing lizard was so delicious. The smooth and tender meat is chewed in the mouth, and the sweet and delicious blood rolls in the throat, which is really a great pleasure for Longsheng. The appetite of the dragons is basically equal to the system, and they can eat as much food as they can. An adult flaming lizard is enough for a young red dragon to eat. With a strong stomach, Shilin quickly finished the meal, but his stomach did not become swollen. Felicia breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that Shilin was full. If Shilin was not full, her mother would definitely blame herself again. After eating and drinking, tiredness hits in an instant, and Shilin should go to bed. The thing that young dragons do the most is sleep. Sufficient sleep time can make the young dragon grow up faster, and all that is left to do is to eat regularly. Shilin looked at Danier's shiny gold coin pile, swooped into the gold coin pile, holding the clacking gold coins, and started to sleep comfortably. Sleeping with treasure, this is a great enjoyment for the dragon clan. Daniel just glanced back at Shilin, and did not say anything about Shilin. This is the privilege of the young dragon, who can sleep with his mother's gold coins. If Felicia dared to lie on it, Danielle would definitely not miss her old feelings and clean up Felicia severely. Shilin asked the system to set the alarm clock when she was sleeping, and waited for tomorrow to remind herself to start exercising on time. Other dragons rely on sleeping to increase their strength, but they are a strange species, relying on exercise. When Shilin fell asleep, Danier tilted her head at the egg under her abdomen. Why didn't this egg hatch? According to own budget, this egg should hatch out faster than Shilin, but it hasn't come out for a long time now. Danielle lowered her huge head, pressed her ears to the top of the dragon egg, feeling the vitality inside. Boom boom boom, boom boom boom. A strong and powerful heartbeat was beating, and Danielle raised her head again. It seemed that the dragon egg had no problem at all, but rather forced it. Although the cub hasn't hatched yet, Danier can already predict how strong the cub is. After thinking for a moment, Daniel's huge body fell on the treasure pile. Now she must be patient and wait for the dragon egg to hatch. The next day, dee-dong, wow, the system's alarm clock sounded, and Shilin opened his haggard pupils, slapped his breath, revealing horrible vertical pupils. A strong day starts with self-discipline. Shilin jumped on the spot, moved his muscles and bones, and then started his own exercise. While Shilin was exercising, Dragon Mother Danier was also awakened by Shilin's early morning movement, and glanced at Shilin with an extremely annoying look. For the dragon clan, the creature that wakes up to sleep must be punished heavily and be judged by the red dragon. But when a young dragon awakened herself in front of him, Daniel could only control her own temper and kept saying in her heart, "He is still a child, he is still a child." Shilin, who was concentrating on exercising, naturally didn't notice the look in Daniel's eyes, but even if he knew it, Shilin would say, "I understand, next time I will dare." Hey, Shilin started the hardest squat he had so far, and it seemed that he had to work harder on his hind limbs. At this moment, Felicia walked in with a huge body, still holding 2 flame lizards in her mouth. Shilin. Felicia saw that Daniel was still asleep, so she turned her head and yelled softly to Shilin. After Shilin, who had just completed the task, heard Felicia's call, he trot non-stop next to Felicia. "What are you doing?" Felicia pushed a blazing lizard in front of Shilin, and was puzzled by Shilin's actions just now. "This is the exercise method in my memory inheritance." Shilin lowered his head and chewed up the blazing lizard. This was an excuse to try lark. Anyway, the memory inheritance of each red dragon was not exactly the same. The main memory still depends on Tiamat's emphasis on the young dragon. Felicia didn't say much when she heard it. The content in the memory inheritance is the little secret of each dragon, and she doesn't want to say that it can't be forcibly persecuted. "Felicia, I need to go out and take care of the dragon eggs to you." At this time Danier completely awoke, and now she can't fall asleep even if she wants to sleep in this situation. The dragon's ears can be extremely sharp, and the sound of continuous chewing in Shilin's mouth made Danier feel a little hungry. "Don't worry, mother, I will take care of these little brother little sister." Felicia lowered her head quickly. Daniel nodded in satisfaction when she saw this, and after leaving her instructions, she walked out of the cave. When Danier left Shilin, he discovered that the cave was so huge, but it was all occupied by Danier. "Felicia big sis, where did mother go?" Shilin looked out curiously. What else did Danier need to do? "Pray." Felicia answered Shilin's curiosity, as Gulong also needed food. It's just that Danier's food was basically prepared by Felicia. This time it was considered as one of the good predators for Danier after becoming a dragon mother. Shilin nodded, and the flaming lizards were eaten up by the remnants of the wind, leaving only a white bone. Because she was too lazy to clean the cave, Felicia directly swept the pile of bones into the magma with a light sweep of her tail. Thump. When the skeleton enters the magma reacts fiercely, bubbling and bursting continuously. Gulu Gulu's movements are disturbing, but to the red dragon it is a beautiful and melodious voice. Is this egg about to hatch? After Shilin solved the blazing lizard, he came to Felicia. "Well, mother said the day before yesterday that this egg will hatch with you, and asked me to prepare food. In the end, only you were born. I heard from my mother that the egg is not dead yet and the vitality is very active. As for why it hasn't been born yet, my mother is not sure." Felicia stretched out her curved claws and touched the dragon egg, seeming to be curious about the egg. "Where is the blazing mountains?" When Shilin had time now, he asked Felicia to learn about the structure of the blazing mountains. The blazing mountains are located in the southern part of the Western Fantasy continent. There are a total of 108 volcanoes inhabited by a total of 51 red dragons. They are all the mother's children. When each red dragon reaches adulthood, it will live in the volcano assigned to them by the mother. Of course, most red dragons will choose to leave their mothers and develop their own red dragon empire on their own. Otherwise, there will be more red dragons in the blazing mountains. 108 volcanoes are not enough for our red dragons to live in. Felicia shrugged, and patiently told Shilin all this. Maybe she hadn't talked like this for a long time. Shilin couldn't help but compliment Danier when he heard this. According to Felicia, Danier gave birth to almost 1/5 of the red dragons in the Western Fantasy continent. Don't think that there are many red dragons. There are only a few thousand red dragons in the Western Fantasy continent, not just red dragons, but other 5-color dragons. So if it weren't for a great feud in the abyss, the high-level dragon races would not kill each other, but would only humiliate each other severely. Unless it is a particularly cruel dragon, it will kill the dragon clan. This is the tacit understanding of the dragon clan. The dragons of this level are punishable by dragons, and no dragon wants their offspring to be threatened by the dragons. Even the boss of the chaotic evil camp, the red dragon, will kill all such dragons. Except for the low IQ belong among the 5-color dragons, this guy was an idiot before he was an adult, and it was nothing to say that he was an idiot. The IQ of the white dragon is generally the same as that of the beast. Only a few white dragons will be admitted to inherit memory by the dragon queen Tiamat. However, I don't know if it is because the white dragon and the silly dragon are stupid. On the contrary, the number of white dragons is the largest number of 5-color dragons, which can be regarded as a blessing in disguise. About 50,000 kilometers to the west of the Blazing Mountains, there is a small country built by humans called the Kitarui Kingdom. Adertisement. The reason why they can be established there and not be defeated by other beasts is not because of their strength, but because they have a deadly fortress. That fortress is easy to defend and difficult to attack. It is a headache for many orcs. In order to attack this fortress, it is said that tens of thousands of orcs have died. But it's a pity that they didn't attack. Instead, the group of humans took advantage of their weakness to counterattack and was beaten back to their hometown in the evening forest. When Felicia told this story, her face was full of ridicule. In her opinion, this group of orcs was really rubbish, and even the small country of humanity could not be defeated. Had it not been for Danier's injury, coupled with the long distance, the red dragons of their blazing mountains would have been fighting to divide the human kingdom. What is the concept of more than 50,000 kilometers? That is larger than the perimeter of the flower planter's territory. Although red dragons are powerful, they are creatures after all, and they will be tired. When someone who does not eat, drink or sleep arrives in the human kingdom, others are expected to have received the news and ran away. After all, such a large-scale attack by a group of red dragons would be difficult to not be discovered. If a single red dragon attacked, it would basically kneel without the strength of a young dragon. The adult dragons above the young dragons disdain to attack, and their goal is a larger human empire. How is the strength of this Kitarui kingdom? Shilin had some interest in this human kingdom, and he might be able to go there in the future. Strength. I heard that there are 2 5-ring mages, 10 bronze knights, 5 full-time archers, and 1 great summoner. Felicia thought for a while and said, "This is the realm of human mages, knights, archers, and summoners, which corresponds to the realm of the adult red dragon. Of course, this is just a correspondence set by mankind himself, just these lineups want to defeat an adult red dragon. That dream didn't dare to do this. Not to mention defeating the adult red dragon, but to repel the adult red dragon. At least 10 5-ring mages, 100 bronze knights, 100 full-time archers, and 5 great summoners are required. Remember, this is not about defeating the adult red dragon, but simply repelling. If you want to truly defeat the adult red dragon and keep him, you must at least double the number by more than 10 times. Even if they were lucky enough to defeat the adult red dragon, there are only a handful of people left alive, no more than 5 fingers. Felicia, big sis, how do you know about things so far away? Shilin is guessing whether Felicia will have a special ability. After all, some special red dragon clubs are especially rewarded by Dragon Queen Tiamat. Will be given the next natural skill, commonly known as talent. Only a few dragon darlings can get talents, and Shilin himself didn't get talents. Because Shilin's talent was only moderate, naturally he couldn't receive Tiamat's reward. If it weren't for the overlapping of souls, there would not be so many inheritance memories. However, Tiamat couldn't feel it. The red dragon own turned out to be a different world dragon, thanks to the cover-up of the system. There have also been examples of people crossing the 5-color dragon before, but unfortunately they were all observed by the Queen Tiamat, who would be killed by Tiamat as soon as they were born. The noble red dragon did not allow an outlier among himself. Listen to the caravans and bards passing by. Felicia waved the tail behind her boredly, and now she started to miss those humans. In the past, some caravans and bards were often passed by here, but now that Danielle's reputation is so great, no one dared to pass by. Felicia hasn't seen humans for a year. How dare they pass this place? Shilin was a little surprised. It happened a year ago. Since Fries killed all the caravans passing by, no one has passed through here. When Felicia talked about Fries, her tone became a little bit awkward. In her opinion, it was all this frisk that made humans not come here anymore. Although the red dragon cannibalize people, as long as you donate enough treasures, you can save your life. The favorite of Felicia in the past was to stop the caravan passing by and let them tell an interesting story to themselves. If you find it interesting, you only need to hand over a little treasure. If it is not interesting, you must hand over a lot of treasure. Fries. Shilin didn't recognize the dragon. A nasty guy who was expelled from the Flame Mountains by his mother a year ago. Felicia told Shilin with great interest the story of Fries. Fries is a grown-up red dragon. After he became an adult, he tried to challenge Daniel's status. Isn't it the old birthday star eating arsenic and looking for death? Daniel defeated Fries easily, and Fries was kicked out of the Flame Mountains. I heard Felicia said that this guy has a very violent personality, and he often likes to fight with his brothers. He is a veritable dynamite barrel. Anyway, Felicia hates Fries so much. When Fries is an adult dragon, she is the young dragon who is about to reach the young dragon. While Shilin was chatting with Felicia, a dragon chant that resounded through the sky came out from the door. Roar, dragon mother of flame, Danier is back. The light at the door was getting weaker and weaker, replacing it with the extremely hot red light. Great mother. After seeing Danier coming in, Felicia quickly lowered her head and returned to her dignity. Shilin doesn't have so many rules, I'm just a young dragon. Has this egg not hatched yet? Daniel couldn't wait to ask as soon as she came in. No, mother. Felicia shook her head, this egg is really weird. There was a trace of impatience on Daniel's face. It is a good thing to have a strong life reaction. But the delay in hatching is another big deal, because it is likely to be a fool. The so-called hybrids are the hybrids born of red dragons and other creatures. For the dragons who pay attention to bloodlines, this hybrid species is attacked by all dragons. Under certain possibility, the dragons that are fighting between the two sides will temporarily reconcile, and the hybrid species will be eliminated first. Shilin, who has a memory inheritance, knows what Danny's hybrid is. Real dragons hate hybrids. It hasn't hatched tomorrow, Felicia, you throw it away. Daniel didn't want to bet whether this egg was a hybrid. I have been the mother of the Flame Mountain group dragons for so many years, if a hybrid breed is hatched, then where will my face be? I disdain to throw away the dragon egg by myself. As for why not just break the dragon egg? That's because in case there is a real dragon in it. Killing a real dragon that is still growing up will be cursed by the Queen Tiamat. I understand, mother. Felicia looked at the dragon egg with unkind eyes, a dignified look appeared on her face. Shilin was eating melons and watching the show quietly, and he was not a real dragon. I am a human being, and I don't have that big opinion about mixed races. And mixed races tend to be more talented than real dragons, after all, they have the excellent genes of both parents at the same time. The reason why true dragons don't want to see mixed races is that it still comes from the arrogance in the heart of true dragons. At this moment, the egg shook. For a time, it attracted the attention of 3 dragons. Click! The dark red dragon egg broke apart, and a small water silver claw stretched out. When she saw this paw, Danier's face became extremely gloomy, and the flames glowing on her body became more and more high. Even the dim place in the corner was completely illuminated by Danielle. Endless dragon power spread from her body, as if a high mountain was pressed on the dragon egg. The egg shell broke completely. A water-colored young dragon appeared in front of them. This silver dragon is slender, and its shiny metal dragon scales reflect colorful light. His whole body didn't even look like a red dragon, it was completely like a silver dragon. Who is Yinlong? That's the enemy of Red Dragon. As soon as the two sides met, they were going to fight to the death, and finally humiliated the losing party severely. But now the other party was born in a red dragon egg. The result is obvious, the opponent is a mixed race. At this time, the little silver dragon that had just hatched was shivering under Danier's anger, and he didn't dare to move at all. However, based on the instinct of the dragon clan's memory, the little silver dragon still speaks exclusively. My dragon's real name is Katrina Caitlin Soraka Gana. Catalina now only wants Danielle to let herself go when she is favored by Tiamat. As for Danielle to raise her up, Catalina couldn't even think about it. However, Katrina's real name of the dragon, instead of making Danier's face look good, was even more gloomy. Queen Tia Matron actually took a fancy to this hybrid, why is that? Dirty mixed race, don't you realize that we are different? Felicia took a step towards Catalina, and her huge body put a lot of pressure on Catalina. At this moment, Catalina wanted to cry without tears, and she didn't want to be a mixed race, let alone appear here. But the fact is like this, Danier brought herself back and kept urging her to be born. If Catalina were a bard, then she would definitely write a book, The Beginning. Regenerate the enemy base. But unfortunately, she is not. The hot flame breath has condensed in Felicia's throat, and only Danny's order is required. Catalina can definitely go to see Queen Tiamatron in the next second. The surging killing intent swept over, and Catalina was already ashamed at the moment. Sure enough, as long as it is a hybrid species, it is impossible to survive in front of a real dragon. Shilin also sighed inwardly. Catalina was undoubtedly bound to die, and no one could keep her. But just when Catalina was ready to go, Danielle finally spoke. She left it to you, Shilin. Felicia. D. Catalina. Oh. Shilin. Delta. Daniel's words were filled with anger, and just now, Queen Tiamatron actually sent a letter to her. Tell her not to kill Catalina. Catalina is the cub she supports. This shakes the heart of Danier, who originally believed in the Queen of Tiamat for the first time. But due to the face of Queen Tiamatron, Danielle chose to let Katrina go. And also handed Catalina to Shilin. What's the situation? Shilin, who had been eating melons, suddenly became blinded. Why did Danielle suddenly hand Catalina to herself? Not only Shilin, but the breath of the dragon in Felicia's throat, who was ready to go, turned into a cloud of black smoke, flowing out of her mouth and nose. Why mother, this kind of hybrid? Felicia said fiercely to Catalina. Catalina shrank her neck in fright, but she was ecstatic in her heart, she didn't have to die. Unexpectedly, her mother Danier was willing to save her. Shut up, Felicia, get out of me. Danielle's anger was almost on the verge of an explosion, basically exploding at the touch of it. An extremely angry roar resounded through the dragon's nest, and all the red dragons that heard Daniel's roar lay on the ground one by one. Felicia was so frightened by Danier that she ran out of the dragon's lair without saying a word. Looking at Felicia's back, Danier stepped heavily on the ground, and finally squatted on the pile of gold coins and closed the dragon pupil. Before closing his eyes, he took a special look at Shilin, which meant, hurry. Kill this little fool while you are also a young dragon. Big brother. Catalina cautiously came to Shilin, and she still couldn't understand Shilin's temper. Shilin's body was a lap larger than the average whelp, and at first glance it was a grumpy one. Catalina was afraid that she would accidentally provoke Shilin and be torn to pieces by Shilin. At that time, even Dragon Queen Tiamat would not be able to protect her. After all, fighting between the young dragons was allowed. What's the matter? When Shilin was thinking about the meaning of Daniel's eyes, he heard the cry of Katrina, little sister, herself. What is your real name? Katrina's attitude towards Shilin was quite surprised. It seemed that her big brother had a good temper. When he saw Katrina's beautiful and gleaming dragon scales, Shilin immediately understood what Daniel meant. It turns out that my mother found herself a child bride. Shilin successfully misinterpreted Daniel's meaning and turned to answer. My name is Shilin Raymond Gattuso Caesar. Hello, Shilin big brother. Seeing Shilin's strong bones, Catalina immediately decided to hug Shilin's thigh. As a mixed race, he must be easily chased by dragons when he grows up. But having a powerful big brother is different. Katrina decided to follow Shilin big brother since she was a child. Catalina didn't feel losing face at all about holding thighs. Do you think I am losing face, and I say you are losing my life? Hello little sister, just call me big brother from now on. Shilin smiled slightly. In fact, he wanted Catalina to call his husband directly, but it felt too early. Okay big brother. Katrina nodded happily. It seemed that Owen's situation was not too bad. But Danier, who pretended to be sleeping next to him, almost sat up. My mother asked you to kill the little fool. Why are you still chatting with Gusto? Danier felt that she should give Shilin a little signal, so she snorted softly, hoping Shilin would understand. The ripples of the sound reverberated in the lair, and Catalina seemed to be a bit biased towards the silver dragon, and she was scared to hide behind Shilin. Don't be afraid of little sister. Mother meant that she was going to bed and told us to go out and talk. Shilin thought he understood Danier's meaning perfectly. Danielle. Backquote. My mother is asking you to kill her quickly. It turned out to be Big Brother, so wait until I finish eating these things first. Katrina nodded suddenly, turned around and ate the eggshell and egg liquid on the ground. Shilin looked at Katrina's smooth back. Even from a human point of view, it's still so beautiful. After Katrina finished eating, the two dragons happily left the lair. Only Daniel, who was unlovable, was left. Outside. System, check Catalina for me. Shilin said immediately as soon as he came out. The own system can not only observe its own data, but also the other party's data. It's just that the opponent's strength can't be too high, like Felicia and Danier are both question marks. Name, Catalina. Biology, Silver Dragon, half-red dragon blood, lineup late-stage culture. Attack, 8 ordinary young red dragon 8. Defense, 4 ordinary young red dragon 5. Speed, 10 ordinary young red dragon 8. Physique, 10 ordinary juvenile red dragon 5. Magic, 1 ring of dragon magic dragon whispers. Talent, the beloved of magic god level. Abilities, bite, tear, flame breath, frost breath. Evaluation, a very promising mixed species. Katrina's data shocked Shilin, but he didn't expect the data to be so luxurious. There is also a god level magic talent. Doesn't it mean that Catalina is destined to become a magic dragon? If Shilin knew that it was Tiamat who had secured Katrina, then he would probably know why Tiamat had secured Katrina. I just want Catalina to become a subordinate of Own. The dragon will die in the end, and after death, the soul will fly to the kingdom of the gods that he believes in. There, the gods will check whether you are pious, and if you are pious, you will be resurrected by the gods to reshape your body, truly leaving the first order life level. But what if it is ungodly? That God will definitely throw your soul away and become the material for building the kingdom of God. Tiamat just took a fancy to Catalina's future capital and invested in Catalina in advance. The two whelps basically couldn't go anywhere, and they were stopped by Felicia not far away. You can't go out of this line, of course. Felicia lowered her body and said to Catalina, you can go out. Outside, you can encounter other red dragons from time to time. When Catalina meets other red dragons, it will definitely be tortured. Felicia was full of longing for this scene. No, Felicia big sis. Catalina looked at Felicia's terrible vertical pupil, and stepped back in fear. No, I don't allow you to call me big sis, you are not worthy at all. Felicia heard Catalina calling herself big sis, and almost broke out on the spot. Let a hybrid species be called the real dragon big sis, that is the most vicious language in the world. Sorry Felicia big sis, Catalina didn't mean it. Shilin knew that Felicia was going to be angry, and took Katerina and hurriedly left here. At this moment, Catalina was terrified, and Shilin was abruptly dragged away. What happened this time was destined to leave a big shadow on Catalina. Since that time, Felicia has brought food for the two whelps every day. It just seemed to be deliberately targeting Catalina, and all she brought to Catalina was rotten flesh. Katrina was about to cry because she was wronged, so Shilin simply gave her some meat. 7th day. Congratulations to the host for completing 20 push-ups per day, and sticking to it for a week, the critical strike bonus red dragon physique plus 100. Congratulations to the host for completing 1 lap of magma 1-day trip every day, and sticking to it for a week, the critical strike awards dragon's breath damage 10 times. Congratulations to the host for completing 20 squats per day, and sticking to it for a week, the critical strike bonus red dragon physique plus 100. Shilin successfully signed in for 7 consecutive days, received rich rewards, and successfully stepped into the young dragon's standard of strength. Comparable to the results of the young dragon after sleeping for 100 days, at the level of the adult dragon, Shilin is also at the top level. Catalina also discovered within these 7 days that her mother, Danielle, also hated herself. Among the dragon's nest, only Shilin didn't hate himself. Ever since, Catalina followed Shilin's ass every day, and followed Shilin to make unintelligible movements. Even if I don't know why this is done, Catalina is still happy to follow. Time flies, the years flies. 3 years is too short for Honglong. System. Chapter 11. Host. Shilin. Creature. Red dragon, chaotic evil. Attack. 500 ordinary young red dragon 300. Defense. 350 ordinary juvenile red dragon 200. Speed. 200 ordinary juvenile red dragon 150. Physique. 600 ordinary juvenile red dragon 350. Items. Tiamat's dragon scales demigod, Uranus's hair demigod, Zeus's thunder and lightning demigod. Magic. 100 kinds of one-ring magic, 50 kinds of two-ring magic, 35 kinds of three-ring magic. Talent. Superb physique, half god level, breaking potential god level, proficient in magic, spirit level. Abilities. Bite, tear, fire breath, frost breath, lightning breath, poisonous mist breath, acid breath. Evaluation. The ordinary kingdom can't stop your footsteps at all. After 3 years of experience, Shilin used the body of a young dragon to beat the invincible hands of the young dragons in the blazing mountains. Shilin's growth stunned everyone, knowing that 3 years is only enough to turn a baby dragon into a baby dragon. For example, Catalina now looks like a young dragon. If it weren't for the dragon clan's limitation, that would be to sleep for a period of time when breakthrough a level, otherwise Shilin's strength would be even higher. In 3 years, Shilin found that the usual rewards were fixed, but the crit rewards were random. Fortunately, Shilin opened a god-level talent, a demigod-level talent, and a spirit-level talent, and unlocked the column of system items. The rankings of talents are common level, transcendent, spirit level, demigod, god level, 5 rankings. The same is true for the level of the item. Tiamat's scales were inlaid on the inverted scale of Shilin, where the neck was close to the chest. That is the deadly part of all dragons. There is the inverse scale of the dragons, and it is also the weakest place of the dragons. Basically, the dragons that are being killed now die because of the destruction of the scales and opening a hole. And Tiamat's scales can withstand all the damage below the demigod, so now the weakest place of the dragon clan has become the hardest place in Shilin. Uranus's hair is a kind of magic potion material. You need to know the 8 circles of magic before you can use it. As for the thunder and lightning that Zeus discarded, it was a disposable item that could kill a demigod opponent. At this moment, Shilin is lying on the stone of Sige Forest next to the Flame Mountain group, where there is a very rich food. As long as the wormlings become young ones, then Daniel will not have the responsibility to raise them. The next food must be hunted by himself. Now Shilin is looking for food in the forest with Catalina. Bang! Sudden, in a dense jungle, a 6-meter-long silver figure popped out. Big brother, look, diving crocodile. Katrina had a big guy with a body length of 10 meters in his mouth. Diving crocodile, as the name suggests, likes to hunt prey in potential water. In the magical beasts of Western fantasy continent, the strength can barely squeeze into the middle and lower levels. It's just that this refers to the diving crocodile after adulthood, and the diving crocodile held in Katrina's mouth is a juvenile. An adult scuba crocodile is at least a 15-meter-long guy. But who is Catalina is also a young dragon. 3 years is not enough for Catalina to be as abnormal as Shilin. Her age is still the age of a young dragon, but her body has grown to the size of an adult dragon. At this time, Shilin is 18 meters long with the tail, and the wings are even more huge. A single one is 10 meters long, and the 2 stretched out can reach an astonishing 20 meters. Shilin glanced at the diving crocodile full of ice scum, and knew that he must have been served by frost breath before he died. Katerina, have you forgotten the last time your mother was furious? Shilin said silently. The last time Catalina brought back a prey that was full of frost, Danielle almost broke up when she saw it. In my territory, no ice slag can appear. Understand? Awful. That's what Daniel said to Catalina at the time, and she scared Catalina to pee. Sorry big brother, I can't help but. Catalina remembered the last time Danielle's roar. However, she prefers frost breath to fire breath, and she uses it very freely. It's okay, just grill the diving crocodile with flames before going back. Shilin jumped off the stone and came to Katrina. As soon as the two were compared, Catalina became a little bit of a birdie inexplicably. Obviously she is also a 6-meter-long behemoth. Ha! Shilin blew lightly at the diving crocodile, and his extremely hot breath gushed out of his mouth. The breath turned into a red dragon and wrapped the diving crocodile, melting the ice slag on it into a cloud of white gas. The skin of the diving crocodile was also blackened and rolled up, and it looked like it was killed by the breath of flames. "It's time to go back," Shilin said. Katrina nodded. Shilin's wings shook hard, the invisible hurricane was suddenly lifted, and the surrounding leaves flew along with the hurricane. In the next second, Shilin flew into the air. Katrina looked at the big brother admiringly, flapping her own wings and flying towards Shilin. The two brothers and sisters marched towards the blazing mountains. In the past 3 years, some changes have taken place in the blazing mountains. The most important change is that of Danier, the mother of the flame dragon. As she got older, Danier's body should have gradually recovered and improved. However, the influence of the dark disease made her look more dying, like an ancient dragon. Although his body is getting worse and worse, his strength is still increasing as always. This is the scary talent of the red dragon. The strength you have worked so hard to cultivate is just the strength of the red dragon to sleep. Big brother, you said mother and her body. Catalina grabbed the diving crocodile with her claws, she swallowed it again when she reached her mouth, and stopped talking. Don't worry, my mother is just an ancient dragon. It's still a long time since the dragon's twilight years. Shilin gave Katrina a tranquilizer. Danielle will indeed not die, at least more than 1,000 years away from death. A normal dragon can live for almost 3,500 years. Now Danier is just a child of 2,003 years old. Well, dragon boy, even if the injury will lose 500 years of life, there will still be more than 1,000 years to live. I know, it's just that I'm a little worried about my mother. Katrina revolved around Shilin in midair. After 3 years of getting along with each other, Danielle finally reluctantly accepted the mixed breed of Catalina. Although her attitude towards Catalina was not very good, she thought it was much better than before. Flame Mountains. Is this Shilin you hunted? Felicia saw the diving crocodile in Catalina's hands. The young dragon wanted to kill the 10-meter diving crocodile, which was somewhat unlikely. No, Felicia big sis, Katrina did it. Shilin smiled. Oh. There was a hint of surprise in Felicia's eyes. If she was a young dragon, she would never be able to do it. Sure enough, as her mother said, even though Catalina was a mixed race, her strength was far behind most of the red dragons. In order for this big sis to be able to accept herself, a circle of flames was set off around Katrina's body. After each dragon reaches its juvenile stage, it can display realm belonging to its own attribute. The red dragon is naturally the flame aura realm. The silver dragon is realm, the frost aura. As its strength grows, realm will also expand. It is clear that Katrina is familiar with realm, the halo of frost, but she wants to prove that she has lived in the Flame Mountains for 3 years. In 3 years, even if Catalina had the appearance of a silver dragon, her heart had already burned like a fire. Shilin, Felicia, and Catalina, come in. Daniel's voice came from the dragon's nest, and it sounded a bit less backbone than before. Katrina laughed like a spring flower when she heard that Danielle called her name. This is the first time Danier calls her by her name. It used to be directly called Chopsticks, and only when you are in a good mood will you be called a mixed race. The excited Catalina was about to cry. Don't be in a daze, watch out for your mother to get angry. Shilin took the first step and slapped Catalina's ass with a spiked tail. In 3 years, Shilin also understood a little bit. At the beginning, Danielle meant to kill Catalina. It's just that he misinterpreted the wrong meaning, and he said how Danier would agree to be a mixed race as his future partner. After feeling the tingling on her butt, Catalina immediately reacted and chased after her with 4 short legs. In the dragon's nest, as soon as he stepped into it, Danier's 60-meter-long giant was introduced in front of him. Compared with her previous majestic look, she now looks very much like an ancient dragon. If Danier's breath 3 years ago was like a 50-year-old human being, then Danier's breath now is an 80-year-old man. Danier did not speak when she saw the 3-headed dragon coming in, but silently eating the treasures under her feet. Shilin was slightly surprised to see this scene. The dragon was greedy. When you are ready to die or fight to the death, you will eat all the treasures you have collected in your life. With a furnace-like stomach, digesting these treasures is a trivial matter, except for some that are particularly difficult to digest. It takes some time. By doing so, the victor can never obtain the dragon's treasure, unless he breaks through the dragon's belly and pulls out the treasures that have not been digested. Mother. Felicia didn't understand Danier's approach. What her mother was going to do was not dying depending on the situation. In that battle 100 years ago, that group of chihuahuas left me a lot of wounds. Originally, I only needed to repair for a few years to heal, but the Andrew and Kiana actually gave me an indelible curse. When Daniel said this sentence, the anger in her whole body turned into a raging fire, which filled the dragon's nest. Andrew Fu is the name of the ancient golden dragon, and Kiana is the name of the very old silver dragon. At first, I just thought it was a common dark disease, which can be repaired with my strong body. But I never thought that this turned out to be the Thanatos curse, which could make the dragon's injuries more and more serious. When Danier said this, her eyes were unwilling. She was still young and didn't want to die. But once the curse of Thanatos is hit, there is basically no good possibility. After Shilin heard the Thanatos curse, he quickly began to read the memory inheritance in his mind. The so-called Thanatos turned out to be the god of death stronger than Queen Tia Matron. Thanatos is the god of death, and there is no life that cannot be harvested under his sickle. And the curse of Thanatos was not created by Thanatos, it was just a forbidden curse created by a witch god. The overbearing part of this curse is that as long as you are caught by this curse and you are not a god, then this curse will always exist on you. Keep devouring your life, until you consume all your life and turn it into a corpse. So some people named this curse the Thanatos curse, meaning that as long as you are hit by this curse, you can wait to die. Although the Thanatos curse is overbearing, it is very demanding to successfully cast its hits. First, you must get the same hair on the opponent's body and cast the Thanatos curse on the opponent's hair. Finally, he has to send the hair with the curse of Thanatos into the opponent's mouth, which is simply more difficult than reaching the sky. Daniel could be hit by this curse because she was too arrogant. The scales on his body were torn off by the opponent and then hidden in a pile of treasures. It is worth mentioning that the dragon has two stomachs, one for consuming things and the other for storing things. Danier saw that the other party threw a pile of shining treasures at her, of course she swallowed it in her stomach and hid it. Unexpectedly, he was hit by the Thanatos curse of the opponent. I thought that even the Thanatos curse could last for more than 1,000 years. But this is not the case. The Thanatos curse is getting more and more serious. According to the speed at which life is dying, I can only last for another 500 years at most. That is just a sigh of the ancient dragon. Danier laughed at herself. The time she could live is the time for the ancient dragon to sleep. All I am today is absolutely. Instead of staying in the flame mountains and waiting to die, I decided to fight again. Stretch out my sharp claws to tear apart the bunch of chopsticks. Daniel is already dying. She who is about to die no longer cares that dragons can't kill each other. And the other party did it first. I am calling you over now because I have something to tell you. Felicia, you, as my loyal follower, will leave the Blaze Mountains to you to manage after I leave. Don't worry, even if I leave, those other red dragons will look on my face and listen to you. As for Shilin and Catalina, you still stay here when you leave the Flame Mountains, it's all based on your own will. As long as you don't want to leave, no one can drive you out. Danielle snarled. Her words resounded through the entire Flaming Mountain group, which was a warning to the other red dragons, don't disturb your mind. Otherwise, don't blame her for being polite. Mother, I decided to go out and build my own red dragon empire. Shilin's ambition is not in the Blazing Mountains, staying here will only waste his own time. Red Dragon Empire, I am very optimistic about your Shilin. In the future, you are likely to leave the world. Because the moment you make a sound, it means that you are the god of the gods. Danielle had great expectations for Shilin and directly concluded that Shilin would become a god in the future. Thank you for your praise. Shilin never thought that Danier was so optimistic about herself. It seemed that if she didn't become a dragon god, she would be a bit disappointed by Danier. Mother, no, Great Flame Dragon Mother, I want to follow Big Brother. Catalina almost called her mother to exit, and hurriedly changed her words at the critical moment. After all, Danielle didn't want to call her mother, and she was extremely disgusted with calling her that way. Up to you. Danielle glanced at Catalina lightly, then raised her head and opened her mouth wide. Roar. The roar of the Flame Dragon Mother resounded through the sky, like the thunder rolling above 9 heavens, venting its own anger. Rumble. The earth began to shake and tremble, and countless flame giants climbed up from the blazing mountains, accompanied by the awakening of the flame giants. Fire monsters such as fire dogs and fire spirits all crawled out of the hot molten slurry. Not only them, but the jackals, online monitor lizards, sawtooth cows, etc. on the surrounding vegetation also gathered. These are all the subordinates who fought with Danier back then. This is the Red Dragon Empire belonging to Danier. She has come back for revenge. She will kill those 2 golden dragons and silver dragons. And the humans who participated in the dragon slaying alliance, even if they died. But their offspring are still alive. The dragon's anger will not be subdued by the enemy death, she will kill all the descendants of the participants. This is the price of daring to hunt and kill the dragon. Once you decide to kill the dragon, you must kill the opponent, otherwise the consequences will be very serious. In an instant, Danier disappeared in the dragon's nest. At the top of the flame mountains, Daniel's figure was entrenched there, and the dragon pupil, who despised all fireballs, looked down at the thousands of magical beasts' army below. I am the dragon mother of the flame mountains. The flame dragon mother. The wings of the scourge star. The eyes of fire. At first, it was all frightening. Frightened. 100 years ago, we had to recuperate for 100 years because of a sneak attack by the enemy. Now, our fire of revenge should burn. When Danier said this, the dragon wings carrying the burning fire behind her completely unfolded, covering the sky and the sun. The flames burning all over the body seemed to compete with the scorching sun in the sky. Kill those humans. Tasty food. Roar, my stomach has been missing them. I want to eat hands. Hands. Crush, chop, swallow. Countless magical beasts danced among the demons below, but anyone who saw this scene would have been scared to death. These are all members of the Red Dragon Empire that belong to Daniel. As an ancient dragon, how could there not be an army? Magical beasts, which was compressed into pieces by the black pressure, set off in the direction that Danier pointed out. Danier fell underneath, and the dying breath from her body was swept away. She was still a tyrant 100 years ago. Roar. At this time, a number of red dragons flew out of the volcanoes, and they were all red dragons from the blazing mountains. All the red dragons drilled out of their nests, and at that moment, the volcano turned into a sun. Even the dazzling light in the sky seemed a little bleak. The flame dragon mother is about to take revenge. The fire of revenge has been ignited, and this piece will be handed over to Felicia to rule from today. Danielle was explaining what happened after she left. Roar. All the red dragons present bent their noble heads and worshipped Danier. No dragon dared to refute Danier. She is the supreme lord. The mother of the red dragon group. Ruler of the flame mountains. Shilin, if you want to build a red dragon empire, you can go to the south of the blazing mountains. Go south, there is a vast desert, and there is no dragon ruling there. Danielle gave Shilin a suggestion. Although the western fantasy continent is large, the territory controlled by the dragon is even bigger. Coupled with the reason that Danier kept hatching red dragons, the surrounding territory was filled with other dragons. And those who are all young dragons are young dragons without exception. Shilin, who is a young dragon alone, is not their opponent. And even if Shilin wants to fight, it must form an own army. Otherwise, Shilin will be besieged by countless magical beasts. I understand, mother. Of course Shilin knew about this situation. He was planning to go to the east to take a look. Unexpectedly, Danielle suggested that she should go to the south, so she had to check it out. Katerina, listen. Danier looked at the mixed race that she had always despised. When Katrina heard Daniel calling her name, she immediately sat up straight, like a well-behaved student. Danielle just sighed in her heart when she saw Catalina look like this. Remember Katrina, my real name is Danielle Electo Moj Ritishvan. Call my real name when you are in danger, even if you are a mixed race. That's my child too, no one can take your life before me. Remember. Danielle stretched out her sharp minions and buckled a dragon scale from her body. Placing the dragon scales on own forehead, Danielle slowly whispered dragon magic in her mouth. Eternal protection is better than 1,000 words. Eternal protection is better than 1,000 words. As the spell floated, the dragon scales on Daniel's forehead became brighter, and the flames seemed to burn even the sky. Take it, my child. Danielle inserted this dragon scale in the position of Katrina's reverse scale. This is Danier's asylum spell, which can take the full blow of the ancient dragon. She can also be regarded as making up for the guilt of Catalina in the past 3 years. The red dragon is a representative of chaos and evil, but it does not mean that they have no affection and affection. Roar! Daniel lifted up own flame wings, or flew towards the monster army as a ball of fire. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared into the horizon. Only the remaining flames in midair were left, where they gradually burned out and floated into the air. Mother! Catalina returned to her senses and shouted in the direction where Daniel had left. She had never complained about Daniel. This may be Yinlong's nature to repay grievances with virtue. But it can't be too hot. Go Katrina. Shilin did not expect that Daniel would finally accept Katrina. She was a mixed race. I am afraid that even in the multi-universe, there are not many true dragons that can recognize mixed species, right? Shilin, the place to the south, is called the Death Desert, and it's full of dead spirits. I don't recommend you go there, at least before you were a teenager. As a big sis, Felicia still has to remind Shilin. Death Desert. Shilin jumped his eyelids, and Danielle even recommended Death Desert to herself. Is there any hint? Don't worry, isn't it the Death Desert? I am the strongest red dragon among the 5 color dragons. Isn't it a Death Desert? Shilin is not afraid, it is interesting if it is challenging. Felicia took a special look at her little sister Catalina. She really didn't know what she should say. In the past 3 years, Felicia has also changed a lot to Catalina, but still full of some prejudices. Seeing that Felicia's back was about to disappear, Katrina couldn't help but cried out, "Big sis." Felicia's body suddenly stopped in place as if time was suspended, and her heart shook severely. However, she did not choose to turn her head back to respond to Catalina, but continued to take a strong and powerful step. Big sis Catalina was a little depressed. It doesn't matter, Felicia, I know her character very well. If she didn't accept you, she would have called you a fool. Shilin disapproved of this. At the earliest, Felicia heard Catalina calling herself Big Sis. Didn't her whole person explode? There is no bombing now, but I can accept the best performance of little sister, Catalina. Time to go. Shilin's words brought Katrina back to reality. The red and silver figures rushed into the sky, and they were going to travel far. At least stay away from the Flame Mountains. The revenge that Danier actively provoked this time involved Ji Yulong and Ji Lao Long. Their fight so far cannot be just a small fight. Shilin has a foreboding that the law of real dragons will not die within 100 years will be broken. After Danier fought them the last time, there was no news of a true dragon falling in Western Fantasy Continent. It is precisely because of this that the dragons of the Western Fantasy Continent will ascending sharply. Although they are all young dragons, over time they will become true dragons on their own. It's just that in Danier's war this time, a real dragon must fall. After all, Danier was already a dying dragon. Even if she tried desperately, she would kill a true dragon. Big brother, are we really going to the Death Desert? Katrina always felt that it was dangerous there, and her not-so-good premonition was in her mind to warn herself. Name: Catalina. Biology: Silver dragon, mixed species. Attack: 120, ordinary young red dragon 100. Defense: 110, ordinary young red dragon 100. Speed: 150, ordinary juvenile red dragon 90. Physique: 120, ordinary juvenile red dragon 120. Item: Danier's Blessed Dragon Scale, Spirit Level. Magic: 300 kinds of 1-ring magic, 22 ring magic, 1 3-ring magic. Talent: the Darling of Magic God level, the Premonition of the Gods God level. Abilities: Bite, Tear, Flame Breath, Frost Breath. Evaluation: a young dragon with strong potential, qualified as a dragon in the future. In these 3 years, Catalina has awakened another God-level talent. A premonition called a god. The premonition of the gods can help Catalina avoid all the life-threatening dangers in the dragon life, and even have the effect of prophecy. It's a pity that Catalina is not proficient in using it, unable to predict this effect. Don't worry, what am I afraid of? Shilin stretched his own wings high in the sky, showing his own power. Well, I believe in Big Brother. Catalina speeded up to catch up with Shilin and poked Shilin with her wings mischievously. Shilin smiled and started to play with Catalina in midair. Speaking of Katrina, is there anything you want to go? Shilin suddenly stopped fighting, then turned to ask Katrina. There is only one place I want to go, and that is where Big Brother has always been. There is a touch of warmth on Katrina's face, she likes to follow Shilin. Just like I was growing up, I've been a follower behind Shilin's butt. Shilin was the only dragon in the Flame Mountain group who was kind to her. The other red dragons would have torn Catalina to pieces if it hadn't been for Daniel's order. And in Catalina's view, Shilin is different from those red dragons. Although Shilin also has the attributes of arrogance, but he will not be too arrogant. Be approachable to one's own people and strike hard at the enemy. This is in line with Yinlong's life character, so Catalina inexplicably likes Shilin very much. The two ends just playing in the sky like this, with the passing of time, it soon came to the night. This is the first time a two-headed dragon has rested and slept in the wild since its birth. The blazing mountains are really big. If it were a dragon in Shilin, it would have to fly for 2 days without eating or drinking to catch up. And now there is a Catalina next to her, and the speed must be reduced to the same level as Catalina. Shilin estimated the time, it should take about 5 days to completely fly out of the Flame Mountain group. I'm tired, Big Brother. Catalina is a young dragon after all, unlike Shilin, who is already a young dragon when she was a child. Well, there is a soil slope below, let's go there to rest. Shilin took Catalina and landed on a small slope, surrounded by small hills. Big Brother, it feels like. Catalina didn't know if she thought of something, her face was a little frightened and she approached Shilin. Well, according to the memory heritage, the flames on Shilin's body slowly burned, which was Red Dragon's preparation for the battle in advance. Inheritance of Memory has said that there is a magical beasts called two-tailed scorpions that like to live in such small hills. Their scorpion tails are full of deadly toxins, and there is no problem in killing a young dragon. Da da da. The sound of footsteps came from the small hills, Shilin knew that they were coming. Later, I saw a two-tailed scorpion only 3 meters long crawling out of the hill. The color of their body surface is earthy brown, which allows them to better ambush their prey in the hills. The two-tailed poisonous scorpion, which is 1.5 meters long, shook its hook and looked extremely dangerous. True dragon. 1 red and 1 silver. It's incredible. How did the good silver dragon and the evil red dragon go together? A giant scorpion with a body size of 6 meters crawled out, but it was a pity in Shilin's eyes. Great Lord True Dragon, may I ask if you come to our two-tailed scorpion territory, is there anything wrong? As soon as the two-tailed scorpion leader saw the size of the young dragon in Shilin, he knew that they were probably not opponents. The venom can poison a young dragon, but it is not clear whether it has any effect on the young dragon. In addition, Shilin was still a red dragon, and the leader of the two-tailed scorpion became afraid. Your territory. This is the territory of the Blazing Mountains, do you know? Shilin stepped forward to block Catalina behind her, and handed this trivial matter to Big Brother. Great Lord True Dragon, we have no malice. The two-tailed scorpion leader saw Shilin, who was in flames all over, and backed away. He didn't want to have a dispute with the red dragon, especially a young red dragon. Yes, the leader of the two-tailed scorpion divided him into a young dragon according to Shilin's size. Little did he know that Shilin's age was just a young dragon. Then what are you doing out? Dinner and supper. The flames between the dragon scales of Shilin rose more and more, and the fiery flames reflected on the sand dunes and the two-tailed scorpions. Even the two-tailed scorpion with fire attributes can't stand this extremely hot flame, all retreated for several steps. You misunderstood the great real dragon. We just thought there was an intruder. The two-tailed scorpion bit his scalp and said, originally thought it was some other creature, who would have thought it was a young dragon. Invader, humble ants, you have to know that the entire Blaze Mountain group is our red dragon's territory. Where you go is Wangtu, how dare you dare to say that this is your territory? Shilin moved a step closer again, and all the surrounding weeds burned up, or a little spark floated in the air. Sorry for the great real dragon. The humble servant said the wrong thing. I hope you can forgive me, this insignificant ant. The two-tailed scorpion didn't expect Shilin to be so powerful, so he immediately lowered his head, and the two raised tails also lay on the ground. Ha, forgive. You have to be clear, what price should you pay if you want to be forgiven by a real dragon? Shilin was just frightening these scorpions, in fact he wanted to make some profit. I understand, great real dragon. The two-tailed scorpion was silent, and the true dragons were indeed a group of greedy creatures. Even these poor scorpions like them have to rob. You know, the creatures that can live near the Flame Mountain group are all creatures that are too poor to open the pot. This is the gathering place for the red dragons that love the treasure, and the valuables have long been looted. However, in order to calm Shilin's anger, the double-tailed scorpion was a baby who dared not say anything and could only take out the bottom of the box. The two stings of the two-tailed scorpion leader moved, and the subordinates behind them turned and entered the sand dunes to get the treasure. Please wait a moment, great real dragon. The two-tailed scorpion leader said. Shilin nodded indifferently. It seemed that these two-tailed scorpions were still a little precious. It wasn't even looted by other red dragons, but it shouldn't be a valuable thing anymore. Anyway, Shilin didn't have any expectations for what the two-tailed scorpion could take out. Big brother. Seeing that the other party was very afraid of Shilin, Catalina had the courage to walk out at this moment. Don't be afraid of Catalina, we are dragons. Other creatures can only admire. Worship us. Shilin had to transmit some red dragon character to this silver dragon little sister. Yinlong's character is not suitable for following him, and his indecisive character will die. If it hadn't been for the silver dragons themselves to be very powerful, or for their character, they would have been enslaved, captured and hunted by humans a long time ago. This is a Western fantasy continent where the weak are prey to the strong. Soon, two-tailed scorpions dragged out hundreds of white eggs from the cave. Great real dragon, we are so poor that we can't get any treasures. This is our egg. If you don't dislike it, we are willing to fill you up with these eggs. This is what the two-tailed scorpion leader presses on the bottom of the box. Others, they didn't want to give it, it was really gone. The most valuable is the eggs they lay. Shilin twitched the corners of his mouth slightly when he saw what the two-tailed scorpion leader had brought out. I really shouldn't have any illusions, good guy, even the future child will take it out for him to eat. I have accepted these things, now you can get out of here. Remember, this will always be the site of the red dragon, not yours. Shilin's barbed dragon's tail pressed the leader of the two-tailed scorpion, and the flame exploded above burned the body of the leader of the two-tailed scorpion. Ah, sorry, great real dragon, it will never happen again. The two-tailed scorpion leader yelled in pain. This was Red Dragon's punishment to him, and he dared not resist any trace of it. 3 seconds to the countdown, Shilin retracted his own dragon's tail, and the two-tailed scorpion leader had left an indelible scar on his back. His entire back was burned to black by Shilin, and he was basically in a half-disabled state. And he can't be healed in this life, unless he is treated by the great priest, but he is a magical beast. No human will help a wild magical beast to heal his injuries. All this wound is destined to accompany the two-tailed scorpion leader for a lifetime. Shilin didn't feel cruel, if his strength was just the strength of the young dragon, in the dark night with high winds. The two-tailed scorpion must dare to do the dragon-slaying thing, you can know from the tone of his mouth from the beginning. Moreover, the two-tailed scorpion hates the red dragon to death, and whoever has the treasure taken will worship the other party. Now give it to me, we have to rest. The dragon's tail behind Shilin swept away forcefully, and many of the two-tailed scorpions who were watching the show were knocked to pieces. Clear, the leader of the two-tailed scorpion hid in the cave again with all his subordinates without needing to say anything from Cylindo. Big brother is amazing. Seeing that the group of two-tailed scorpions finally retreated, Catalina immediately jumped in excitement beside her. You can do it when you grow up. Shilin gave Katrina a gentle smile again. Treat the enemy, never be merciful. Katrina nodded excitedly. This was the self-confidence that was born as a dragon. After all the two-tailed scorpions retreated, the night once again ushered in calm. Go to sleep, I'll look at you. Shilin hasn't done the self-discipline exercise today, so I can just watch little sister while doing it. Then what do you do, big brother? Katrina did not expect that big brother would not go to sleep to protect herself. I'm fine, not going to sleep for a week will not make the dragon sleepy. Shilin shook his head, sleeping is not necessary for the dragon. If it weren't for giant dragons to sleep to increase their strength, believe it or not, those adult dragons would definitely go there in the middle of the night. Who wants to waste great time on meaningless sleep? But the young dragons are different. They must sleep to regain their energy and grow up. No, big brother, let me accompany you. Katrina didn't want Shilin to miss sleep time for herself, so she simply learned Shilin not to sleep. Go to sleep, be obedient. Shilin didn't have a good airway, and he didn't need to rely on sleeping to increase his strength. It may be that she heard Shilin's impatience. Katrina shrank her neck, hid under the sand dunes, closed her eyes and went to rest. Seeing Catalina finally ran to rest, Shilin would also start her self-discipline exercise tonight. Task 1. Do 100 push-ups, bonus attack +10. Task 2. Do 100 squats, reward speed +10. Task 3. Cast 10 3-ring magic, bonus magic power +10. Task 4. Swim 10 kilometers in the magma, reward the power of the fire breath +10. Task 5. Do 50 sit-ups, reward physical fitness +10. These are the 5 tasks that Shilin has activated now. Compared with the previous 3, it has now increased to 2. However, there were dunes all around, and there was no magma for Shilin to swim, and he had to protect Catalina who was sleeping. All Shilin automatically passed mission 4 to complete the other 4 missions. After thinking about it, Shilin decided to start with sit-ups. When this young dragon was exercising diligently, the two-tailed scorpion underneath was extremely uncomfortable, and the movement above his head did not stop all night. Morning. Katrina was awakened by the first ray of sunlight in the sky, and as soon as she opened her eyes she saw the big brother sitting on the sand dunes. Big brother. Katrina ran to Shilin in excitement, and affectionately rubbed Shilin's chin with her head. That was where Nilin was, and only the closest dragon would show Nilin to the other side. This represents Shilin's absolute confidence in Tiamat's scales. Well, it is a semi-artifact that gives him confidence. Wake up, let's go then. Shilin lowered his head and said. After finishing the exercise, he didn't go to sleep, instead he was eating eggs and recalling his own past life. I don't know what happened to the parents in the previous life. When I grow into a multi-universe level, I don't know if I have any hope of going back. The two dragons left the sand dunes and proceeded towards the Death Desert to the south. After they left, the two-tailed scorpions crawled out of the nest one by one, cursing the greedy dragon at Shilin's back. Shilin didn't know about all this, and they couldn't jump up anyway. The two-tailed scorpion is the bottom of magical beasts, and the most powerful thing is the venom on the poisonous hook. Big brother, how long do we have to fly? Catalina couldn't see the Death Desert in her mother's mouth from high in the sky. According to Felicia Big Sis, it will take 5 more days to fly, but if I fly, it will only take 2 days. Shilin replied, am I becoming a burden? Katrina was very guilty after hearing this, and she blamed herself for causing the progress to become so slow. Nothing, you are my little sister, the first follower of my Red Dragon Empire. Shilin said jokingly, in order to relieve Katrina a little. Don't worry big brother, when I grow up, I will definitely become the #1 fighter in your Red Dragon Empire. Katrina was determined there loudly, with firmness and self-confidence in her eyes. Looking forward to that day. Shilin laughed. He thought Catalina was very cute, but judging from the growth rate of the real dragon, this little sister would take at least 500 years to develop. For 500 years, I don't know if I can rely on the system to become a god. The two dragons stopped talking, and flew toward the destination speedily. At this moment, Catalina spoke suddenly. Look at big brother, there are human villages underneath. And goblins. Katrina was puzzled at first when she saw the green thing, but the inheritance of memory told her that this creature was a goblin. Human village. Goblin. Shilin's attention was all placed on the front, but he didn't take a serious look at the things underneath. When he heard the word human, Shilin stopped and looked down at the scene below. Sure enough, a group of goblins were invading a human village underneath. This human village looks small, with only a dozen households. But there are hundreds of goblins, and you don't need to think about it, humans will definitely lose. The goblins of the Western fantasy continent are very disgusting. They specialize in plundering women of other races and breeding their offspring. Although the combat effectiveness is relatively weak, the number of wins is very large. I heard that a goblins of 100-member race can grow to millions of people within a year. If the dragon race had that fertility, it would have dominated the world a long time ago. Go and see. Shilin is interested in both humans and goblins. First of all, humans are because they were originally humans, and he still doesn't know what humans in this world look like. Then there are goblins. Goblins are disgusting, but they are the most suitable minions in the early stage of the dragon. After all, goblins breed very fast and are the easiest to use as cannon fodder. Shilin and Catalina did not show up directly, but stopped above the village. The dragon's ears and eyes are enough to see and hear at this height. Below, you goblins, the light of the god of light will destroy you all one day. A young man with an iron sword stood in front of the goblin. He is the only junior fighter in this village. The rest of the people are unarmed ordinary people. If it is 1 or 2 goblins, he is confident that he can barely deal with it, but the other party is 100 goblins. Not to mention that he is a small junior fighter, even 10 senior fighters have to kneel. Boy, we were sent by the Lord of the Forest. You should know who the Lord of the Forest is. A sturdy goblin leader came out carrying a mace, which was less than 1.5 meters tall compared to other goblins. Its height is 1.7 meters, and it is considered a little giant in the goblins. Bah, isn't it an evil dragon? Have the ability to kill me. The young man seemed to have no fear of the dragon, but his trembling legs had already betrayed him. Kill you? Sorry, the Lord of the Forest does not bother to kill you. You should thank the Lord of the Forest. If it hadn't been for the Lord of the Forest to give us an order to arrest only 1 girl and 3 women, otherwise we would have been raging in your village. The head of the goblin looked around behind the young man with a bad look. Heaven, Lord of the Forest, dragon. Shilin frowned slightly. Unexpectedly, this was a land of ownership. It is not very far from the Flame Mountain group, which means that the dragon here should be one of the Flame Mountain group. Otherwise, Daniel would not let any unfamiliar dragon grow up here. Below, don't be a fearless struggling kid, hand over the women and girls I just talked about. The tone of the goblin leader's speech became a bit impatient. According to the goblin's character, where would I say so much nonsense to you? This time the Lord of the Forest needs 3 women to breed the goblins and 1 girl to appetite. Don't think about it. The young man clenched the iron sword tightly, knowing that this time he was bound to die. Abu, let's go, so that at least 1 villager can be saved. A woman walked out on her own initiative, followed by 2 women and a young and beautiful girl behind her. No, Aunt May, Olena, I said I would protect you. Abu gritted his teeth. Why? Why can't I even do it for the people I want to protect? Heaven, I remembered the big brother. My mother once said that there is our big brother named Elok in the Silai Forest. He is a young dragon, ruling the entire Silai Forest. Catalina came to Shilin's ear and whispered softly. Elok. Shilin was puzzled at first, and then he also thought of this giant dragon. Daniel did mention Elok's name, but it was also mentioned in small talk. After all, from Danier's tone, it can be known that Elok should be just an ordinary red dragon, who has not received much attention from her. Well, he is still our big brother in name, or the big brother. Let's go. Katrina was a little scared, but Elok was a young dragon, much stronger than them. Go. Shilin didn't want to leave a bit, because he liked the one under him. That person is the little girl underneath, Olena. Name, Alina. Biology, human incarnation of goddess of luck. Attack, 1. Defense, 1. Speed, 1. Physique, 2. Item, none. Magic, none. Talent, lucky lamb, god level. Magic perception, god level. Ability, none. Evaluation, there is nothing good except being the incarnation of a god. The incarnation of the goddess of luck. Shilin couldn't help but sighed. The lucky lamb can make the talent owner never die under any accident. If the other party must kill you, then you will also encounter the strong to save. Unless the opponent is similar to the danger of Gulong's level of strength, otherwise the talent owner must not die. Magic perception is also very domineering, and can know the source of all magic within a certain range. According to legend, the magical perception of Goddess of Luck can know the situation in each multi-universe. Every use of magic cannot hide from the perception of Goddess of Luck. This is simply a talent at the bug level. It doesn't sound very strong, but if the opponent wants to cast magic in a battle, you can know what magic the other party wants to cast, so that you can counterattack before the magic is touched. Shilin decided to go down and take Olena away now. Aklo shouldn't know. I can smell my mother. At this moment, a voice came from a distance. A giant lava beast with a body length of 30 meters flew here. The arrival of this giant beast caused all the goblins below to kneel down on the ground. Great Lord of the Forest, please forgive our clumsy hands and feet. The head of the goblins took the goblins and knelt on the ground motionless, for fear that Elok might be unhappy to eat them all. Now the goblin leader regrets it very much, and Elok must be because he hasn't brought the little girl for a long time. I came here personally, wanting to punish them for their sins. All the other human beings who heard the movement raised their heads. What did they find? The Lord of the Forest is so huge. The most important thing is that there are 2 dragons in front of him, one red and one silver. Sky. Elok ignored the group of fearful goblins and scared humans. At this moment, he was watching the deep red dragon scale under Catalina's neck. That is Daniel's dragon scale. As Daniel's child, Elok will never forget it for the rest of his life. It was precisely because of the aura from this dragon scale that Elok was attracted to him. I heard that my mother hatched a hybrid. It must be you. Elok looked at Catalina up and down with great interest. He doesn't have that big opinion about mixed races, and each red dragon has a different personality. Although most of them are chaotic evil dragons, Elok is an outlier, and his character is more like a prodigal son. Hello, Elok big brother. Katrina greeted symbolically, but regretted it as soon as she said it. Felicia was irritated because she called her big sis, so now is Elok angry? A young dragon was angry, and even Shilin couldn't keep her. And you or Shilin, the red dragon hope that mother keeps in her mouth every day. Elok turned his head and fixed his gaze on Shilin's body. It looked really good, with beautiful lava scales. He closed his eyes slightly, and then said admiringly, as expected of the genius in his mother's mouth. Elok envies Shilin very much, and can be missed so much by Danielle. Unlike yourself, take a look. Just living in this small Zilai forest, the only one who can command is a lowly species like goblins. Big brother, I took the liberty to enter your territory. Shilin secretly opened his data sheet while Elok was speaking. It was discovered that although Elok was a relatively ordinary red dragon, he was still a young dragon. All aspects of data are hundreds of thousands of them. I have confirmed that the look in my eyes is the dragon I can't beat for the time being. It's okay, I don't care about this, anyway, it's such a large site. Elok opened his own paws and pointed at the boundary where the boundary could be seen. If he can, he doesn't want to spend in this boring Westlife forest. However, his talent is doomed to his mediocrity, and perhaps he will have the capital to establish the Red Dragon Empire only after he reaches Gulong over time. Katrina blinked, then said enviously, "No, Elok big brother, I really envy you for having this place." Catalina's words came from the heart. If she could, she would also want such a small place to grow slowly. Come on, no one dragon will like this place, including myself. Elok rolls his eyes silently. As the owner, he doesn't like his home, let alone others. So what are you doing here? Elok asked curiously. In places like him where birds don't shit, there shouldn't be any dragons who want to snatch this place. Even if it was a snatch, Naxalin and Catalina couldn't beat him at a glance. That's right, we are going to the Death Desert, passing here on the way. Shilin explained. Death Desert, my dear little brother little sister, why are you going there, haha. Elok opened his own big mouth and smiled to the sky, as if listening to the funniest joke in the world. Elok big brother, what are you laughing at? Katrina is a little confused. Is a death desert so funny? Haha, it's the tomb of the young man under the dragon. With such small arms and legs, going there is simply going to die. Which idiot told you to go to the death desert? You know, even I dare not go there, haha. Elok laughed at Shilin and their ignorance. Mother. Shilin said coldly. Cough cough cough. Elok hurriedly stopped laughing and coughed coughing, incredulously. Did your mother really ask you to go? Yes. Shilin nodded. Gudong. Elok swallowed. Fortunately, his mother didn't know the laughter, otherwise Danier would have stripped him alive. Since I am a mother, then I have nothing to say. I wish you all survive. Elok stopped chatting with Shilin anymore, now he was going to enjoy the breakfast below. Wait, big brother, Shilin called out to Elok. Katrina was puzzled. Why would big brother stop Elok at this time? What's wrong? Elok stopped in midair, turned his head a little puzzled and asked. That's the big brother, the girl underneath named Olena, I want her. Shilin is straight to the point. As soon as the voice fell, Elok's eyes became less friendly, and said, little brother, you should know the price of grabbing food from a giant dragon. Of course I know, but I have a way, you must give me Olena. Shilin believed in himself. After hearing this sentence, Elok almost laughed out of anger and said, oh yeah. Then give me a try. Katrina's eyes widened. Isn't there any killer trick in Big Brother? At this time when the public was watching, Shilin spoke. HMPH, if you don't give Olena to me, I will tell her what you ridiculed my mother today. Catalina, Elok, you. Elok stared at him, but didn't know what to say. He seemed to be handled by the other party. As expected of Big Brother, Catalina was speechless in her heart. Well, give Olena to me, and I won't tell my mother about it. Zelena squeezed Elok's character and temper. Elok was so angry that he almost burst into flames. I didn't expect that little brother, himself, would be so mean. Elok, who was about to compromise, suddenly thought that his mother was going to take revenge. Even if Shilin wanted to file a complaint, she couldn't get the news to her mother's ears. Shilin, now my mother is on the front line. It seems that she can't hear your voice. Elok raised his head confidently and said, almost taken by this kid. Really, but do you know the dragon scale, Katrina? It was given by my mother. It only needs Catalina to call her mother's real name, and her mother can know everything that is happening here. At that time, at the flight speed of my mother Gulong, it will only take a day to come here. Shilin smiled, but fortunately, Daniel still left this dragon scale. What? Katrina's head is a bit ignorant. Is the thing given by her mother used like this? You are so despicable, Shilin. After hearing this, Elok scratched his head with anger. How could a mother bestow such a thing on a mixed race, even if she doesn't have a big opinion about the mixed race? But Catalina is a mixed race after all, and she is destined to be inferior to the real dragon, but she didn't expect her mother to value Catalina so much. But after a while, Elok said like a deflated balloon, take it. Thanks, big brother. Shilin specially bit the word big brother harder. Elok said annoyedly. Hurry up and get out of here, the rest of the humans have to give it to me. For humans, it is also a very precious treasure for the red dragon. Now that Shilin had taken it away for free, Elok's heart was bleeding. I'm so poor that I can't open the pot. You, little brother, won't even let go of big brother. Seeing two big brothers playing around, Katrina's mouth twitched. Shilin big brother is too bad. Elok big brother's brain is not normal, and the strength is there to compromise Shilin. I knew with my feet that my mother would never trouble Elok because of such small things. Boom. While Catalina was still wandering, Shilin had already landed on the ground. Thick dust lifted up at this moment and enveloped the entire village. The surrounding trees were tossed by the sudden hurricane, and the leaves were scattered into the air. When the dust settled, what appeared in front of everyone was a majestic red dragon. The whole body was wrapped in lava-like dragon scales, and his forelegs were strong and powerful on the ground. The wings on his back spread like clouds covering the sky and the sun, and the fireball-like dragon pupils stared at the surroundings. The mighty dragon might spread to the surroundings like a turbulent dark tide. Humans and goblins were surrounded by the deep sea at this moment, and everyone was breathless and fell to the ground. Where did this red dragon come from? The head of the goblin tremblingly thought at this moment. Clearly the Lord of the Forest was above his head. Why is the Lord of the Forest still watching this red dragon on his territory, domineering? At first glance, the red dragon in front of me just entered the period of the young dragon, and the Lord of the Forest was the period of the young dragon. Needless to think about it, Elok is definitely stronger than Shilin. Why would he let Shilin release Longwei here without any scruples? In the rules of the dragon, you can pass through my turf, and even if we are old acquaintances, you will be fine if you sit down. But if you release Longwei in my territory, it means that you are going to challenge my master. At this time, the goblin hoped that the Lord of the Forest could uphold justice for them, but Elok on the top was unmoved. Not to mention goblins, now humans are even more desperate. Originally, the goblins were doomed to escape here, but now the 3 giant dragons are all gathered together. I'm afraid it will not be the catastrophe. My name is Shilin. I am the brother of your forest lord. Now with his consent, I will pick someone to take away. Shilin did not report the real name of own dragon, because not everyone deserves to know the real name of a giant dragon. And the dragon does not say its real name when it meets an individual, unless it is the leader of the team or the other party needs to know the real name of the dragon. For example, Elok, when he met Shilin and Catalina, he didn't say the real name of own dragon, and so did Shilin and Catalina. Take a human. The head of the goblin was even more surprised when he heard it. This is one of the dragon's wealth, and wherever a dragon would willingly let it out. But when he looked up and found that the lord of the forest did not move, the goblin leader knew that what Shilin was saying was true. Of course, great lord true dragon, your thoughts are the will of the heavenly gods. Where does the goblin boss dare to have an opinion? Didn't he say that his boss did not say anything? Then they cannon fodder dare to say anything. Shilin was satisfied with the attitude of the goblin leader, and then turned to look at the human behind him. Humans have long been panicked, and a few of them were frightened by Shilin's dragon power and fainted. Chapter 21. Looking at this group of humans, Shilin's first thought was the European Middle Ages. At this moment, this group of humans are dressed like this, and their hair is mainly yellow and black. The Olena that I want is aqua blue hair, perhaps because of the incarnation of the goddess of luck. Only when he saw this water blue, Shilin's eyes flashed with disgust. This is the instinctive reaction of the red dragon, they hate water. I hate everything related to water, especially blue. You follow me. Shilin's huge dragon wing pointed at Olena. When Olena saw that the dragon's target was herself, her legs were directly soft on the ground, and her eyes looked up at Shilin blankly. In her opinion, she will definitely become a snack for the dragon. No, Olena little sister, I'm coming. Young Abu seemed to want to continue fighting, but it was a pity that in front of Shilin this powerful true dragon, that was not even a fart. Shilin frowned slightly, long way on his body added some strength to Abu's body. What? Clang. The iron sword broke away from Iba's hand, and he was completely crushed on the ground, unable to move, and the skin was slowly tearing. Even if Shilin was a human in his previous life, he is now a red dragon. Rebelling against his opinion in front of a red dragon, isn't that just looking for death? Most importantly, Shilin has also seen it. Abu is just an ordinary person, with only a mortal talent. In the eyes of ordinary people, he may be a little genius, but in the eyes of Shilin, he is not even a fart. The other people who were not in a coma closed their eyes, and they were also helpless. Is being weak a sin? After Abu Sa'id one last sentence, the whole person fell into a coma. Yes, Shilin, who has a keen sense of hearing, naturally heard the whispers in Abu's mouth. Come with me. Shilin's huge flame-burning dragon eye stared at Olena. This is the second time Shilin said. If Olena doesn't respond to him, don't blame him for being rude. It just so happens that Shilin also wants to see how abnormal this lucky lamb's talent is. Okay, true dragon, your excellency. Olena stood up with the help of her grandma next to her, who had already burst into tears. Can you hurry up, Shilin? Elok couldn't stand it a bit above his head, this action was too boring. If it was me, I would have called someone away a long time ago, so what would it cost me? When Shilin heard this, he was angry and gave Elok a roll of eyes, who was the incarnation of the goddess of luck. Who knows what will happen to one's own sudden movements, you still have to take your time and highlight the different personalities of your own. The impatience at the back is also for the goddess of luck. Olena's height is only 1.5 meters, and she looks too petite under the 18-meter-long dragon. Katerina. Shilin raised his head and called to little sister. What's wrong, big brother? Catalina flew down from the sky and stood beside Shilin. You come and bring this little girl. Shilin gave Katrina the task of supporting the little girl, who was the red dragon, the head of the 5-color dragon. How can I make Olena lie on her back? Catalina glanced at Olena with disgust, even though she was a silver dragon and friendly to humans. That is not willing to let a human lie on oneself. For the dragon, letting humans ride on own is no less than humans letting a slug stay on top of their heads. What's wrong? You are the #1 soldier of the Red Dragon Empire in the future. What is the role of the soldier? Follow the order. Shilin began to brainwash Katrina. Okay then. Catalina lowered her body in a gloomy manner. Since this is what the warrior has to do, she must obey it. That, great dragon, my humble body is not worthy to touch your pure body, I am willing to walk on foot. Olenna looked at the little dragon Catalina, she didn't dare to climb up. Dragon knights ride on subspecies of dragons, and only the highest level dragon knights are eligible to sign an equal contract with real dragons. This made her an ordinary girl, how dare she stay on Katrina's back? You hike, do you know how far our journey is? Shilin couldn't help but almost laughed when he heard Olenna's words. Originally, their progress was relatively slow, but as a result, there was another Olenna on foot. It didn't last for a few months, so I couldn't get to the Death Desert. Just let you go. Where's all these nonsense? Katrina seemed to be backed up by Olenna's words. The dragon himself doesn't dislike you, and you are still declining there. Isn't this a clear statement that you dislike yourself? Catalina, who was a little angry, grabbed Olenna and put it on Owen's back. It's done. Boom. A breeze whizzed past, and Catalina took Olenna to the sky. What? Olenna felt the rushing wind on her face, and grabbed a piece of Katrina's dragon scales and screamed. It seems that there is no consciousness of goddess of luck. Shilin observed Olenna's performance, and she was completely an ordinary little girl, not what a god should have at all. Unless the other party hides too deeply to see, otherwise the consciousness of goddess of luck is not on Olenna. It can be said that Olenna should be a single individual, but I don't know what the goddess of luck has transformed. Big brother, hurry up! Catalina yelled from the horizon. Okay. Shilin flew into the air and turned his head and said to Elok, thank you for the gift of Big Brother, Elok. We will see you again next time. After that, Shilin stretched out his own dragon wing and chased Katrina. Elok hopes to never see the other side. I have to say that Zilai Forest is really small. Shilin and Catalina only flew for a long time before leaving the forest. Actually, I think the Elok Big Brother is very poor. Catalina looked down one by one from high above the whole scene of Zilai Forest. She would like to call Elok the poorest red dragon. What's so pitiful about him? He doesn't have any daring to take risks at all. Shilin didn't take it seriously, even if Elok's talent was mediocre. Red Dragon's original temper or something, Elok lost all of it himself. Now Elok is more like the salted fish of the previous life, can make do with one day. The difference is that Elok is a red dragon, and his strength will gradually increase as he ages. When the two dragons were chatting, Olenna was almost incontinent when she was lying on Katrina's back. It's not just the dragon that makes her afraid, but the most important thing is that she is afraid of heights. But in front of the two giant dragons, Olenna didn't dare to say anything, she could only forcefully suppress the anxiety in her heart and close her eyes. Keep telling myself that this is on land, on land. It's a pity that the strong wind blowing over her face woke her up again, telling her that this was not a dream. When chatting with Catalina, Shilin did not forget to focus on Olenna. Strange, why is this guy shaking all over? Is it too cold? Shilin didn't think about the fear of heights. In his opinion, people on the Western fantasy continent should not be afraid of heights. After all, there are magical beasts that can fly everywhere. Even a magician can fly after learning levitating, so naturally there are no people who are afraid of heights. After flying out of the Zilai Forest, there are undulating mountains ahead. This is the Garoka Mountains, Big Brother. Catalina leaned closer to Shilin and said. The Garoka Mountains still belong to the turf of the Blazing Mountains, it's just that kind of suburban territory. No red dragon extended its claws here, because it was a bit far from the Blazing Mountains, and it was troublesome to go back and forth. Yeah, Shilin nodded. The Garoka Mountains are very rich in species. There are familiar jackals and golems, as well as rare mountain giants. These magical beasts are one of Red Dragon's favorite subordinates, but miraculously, no red dragon comes here. Or Big Brother, let's build a red dragon empire here. Catalina had an idea about the Garoka Mountains. This is a natural castle. Surrounding the mountains from left to right, like a 100-meter-high city wall, it is easy to defend and difficult to attack. Coupled with the abundant species resources, there must be countless subordinates. No, since my mother asked us to go to the Death Desert, then we will go there and see. Shilin shook his head. There must be something in the Death Desert, and Danier would tell him specifically. Otherwise, there is such a good place as the Jeroka Mountains, why didn't Danielle tell herself? Don't say that Danier is stingy and unwilling to say. She is an ancient dragon, perhaps for other young dragons, this is a rare and good place. But for the ancient dragon like Danier who ruled the Flame Mountains, it was still too inadequate. Okay then, Catalina sighed. How wonderful this place is, the most important thing is the lush forest underneath. As a silver dragon, she likes this kind of environment very much. Although I have never been to the Death Desert, I know it as a desert by hearing the name. Yinlong likes to live in high-rise buildings, such as isolated mountain peaks, or surrounded by clouds. It's just that because Catalina is a mixed race, even if life is in the flames, there is nothing wrong with it. Both heads flew over the top of the Jeroka Mountains, naturally attracting the attention of some powerful people. A giant mountain the size of a mountain opened its yellow eyes and closed it again after seeing the two dragons just passing by. In this situation, every race is performing this event, and countless magical beasts are deeply relieved. High in the sky, Big Brother, I'm hungry. Katrina rubbed her shriveled belly, but now they didn't even eat breakfast. Shilin himself ate the hundreds of double-tailed scorpion eggs last night. Hungry. Me too. With Shilin the size of an adult dragon, it needs more food supplements. And they have been flying for most of the day, and it's time for a rich dinner. Olenna on Katrina's back tightened her legs subconsciously, and when she heard the dragons were hungry, she almost fainted. After listening to the discussion of the dragon, I realized that it was not me who wanted to eat. Go down. Shilin overlooked the Jeroka mountain range below. Of course, they could go there for a natural buffet so close. Okay Big Brother. Catalina followed Shilin all the way down, spreading her wings and sliding down. Under. When he was about to fall on the ground, Shilin changed direction and stopped. What's wrong, Big Brother? Catalina looked around vigilantly, and in order not to be discovered, they chose a secret place to land. The trees in the Jeroka Mountains are completely different from the trees in the previous life. I don't know if it is because of the large size of magical beasts. The trees here generally start at 20 meters, and giant trees 100 meters high can often be seen. So even if the dragon is very big, as long as it falls, it can still hide itself perfectly. Now Shilin stopped suddenly, making Catalina think that there was a dangerous magical beast nearby. You take Olenna down, Shilin said. What? I will take Olenna down. What about you, Big Brother? Catalina was a little confused about what Big Brother was going to do and why she was asked to do it. My size is too big, plus I am a red dragon, even if I am hiding the dragon, it will be like a fire in the night. There is no way to hide, you are relatively small, plus the human girl Olenna as bait. You can bring out some big guys, and then you can have a full meal. Shilin turned around and explained to Catalina. Owen's body shape and firelight are too swagger, especially the sulfur smell from his body is too heavy. Before magical beasts approached, he could smell his deadly smell and hide. Secondly, some small things that can't hide from Shilin's claws are not enough to eat. All Shilin simply used Catalina and Olenna as bait to see if he could catch a big guy. I understand Big Brother. Catalina took Olenna and landed underneath. As Big Brother said, just do it yourself. Bang! With Katrina's landing, a small dust was raised. Go down. Catalina unceremoniously threw Olenna off herself. What? Olenna's immature butt fell on the hard ground, subconsciously hurting. A few tears appeared at the corner of his eyes, looking very pitiful. Cowardly humans, just this pain is enough to leave you tears. Catalina was disdainful of Olenna's behavior. After hearing this, Olenna silently wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes, and said, Great. Your Excellency True Dragon, what are we going to do next? Olenna is a little puzzled. Where is the red dragon just now? Won't you come hunting together? The words that Shilin said to Catalina just now were in dragon language, and Olenna didn't know what Shilin and the others were talking about. What are you doing? Just stand where you are, just shout when you are in danger. After Katrina asked Olenna, she hid among the surrounding woods. What does it mean to stay still? Olenna looked at Catalina who disappeared in front of her eyes, and the ghastly woods around her, her legs trembled again. She seemed to have so many eyes watching her around her, and murderous intent was hidden in the jungle. Guru. Olenna swallowed, tangled in place for a long time, and finally decided to take a few steps forward. After trying to walk a few steps all right, Olenna began to sneak around slowly. After about 10 minutes, how come I smelled a strange breath, tusk, it turned out to be human. At this moment, a group of jungle monkeys came out from the depths of the jungle. The jungle monkey is the most common type of magical beasts in the Western fantasy continent. Basically, there are this kind of magical beasts in the mountains and forests. They belong to the low-level magical beasts, and their strength is equivalent to that of junior fighters. Only a few outliers, such as Jungle Vajra, are more powerful. The whole body has green skin, his eyes sunken in as if shrinking, and the tail behind him seems to be broken. Let me guess, little girl, how did you get here? The jungle monkey leader showed his 3-inch fangs, and his sunken eyes lit up with a dark green light. This is the action before the jungle monkey prepares to prey. Ah, Lord Dragon, help! Olenna saw this kind of scene, turned around and screamed, and then saw Yazzie ran away. Monkey cubs, chase me, remember, I want to eat her lower body. The leader of the jungle monkey wiped the saliva from the corner of his mouth and shouted to Olenna's back. Ooh, I want hands. I want a brain. I want her body. Dozens of jungle monkeys jumped out and hunted in Olenna's direction. These jungle monkeys are like hungry wolves when they are hungry. Their eyes are glowing with glistening green light, and they are about to catch up with Olenna in the blink of an eye. Hidden in the dark, Catalina was almost about to move, and the result was the next second. Bang! A 5-meter-long buck-toothed pig rushed out and knocked out all the jungle monkeys that were about to pounce on Olenna. What? The jungle monkey screamed and flew out, and a hole appeared on the front chests, with green blood flowing, and it seemed that there was no vitality. Boar, this is our jungle monkey territory. The jungle monkey leader took out a mace from nowhere, pointed at the buck-toothed pig in front of him and roared. Yours, even if you are so thin, you dare to say that it is your territory. Bucktooth showed his 10 1-meter-long fangs in disdain, which were already covered with green blood. Don't be too arrogant, stupid pig. When the jungle monkey spoke, he greeted his companions and surrounded him, and hundreds of jungle monkeys surrounded the buck-toothed pig. Ha! Bucktooth took a step back, and 5 of its companions appeared behind him, one of which was 7 meters long. Bucktooth also has a group of magical beasts living in groups, but they have only 6 or 7 in a group, and the extra group will be driven out to establish its own group. Wild monkey, get out of here for me, I want this prey. The bucktooth leader is also unwilling to show weakness, and their size is there, much larger than that of a dwarf creature like a jungle monkey. Humans, how long has it been? How long has there been no humans in the Garoka Mountains? Now Olenna is the first human they have seen in the past 10 years, and of course they have to fight hard. Sky, it is a lucky lamb, there will always be more powerful creatures on the stage at critical moments. Shilin could see clearly from high in the sky, and now that the prey was drawn out, then he was ready to do it. The jungle monkey looked at the 5 bucktooth pigs behind the bucktooth leader, with a retreat in his heart. If the opponent only has 2 bucktooth pigs, then the jungle monkey leader will definitely attack without hesitation. But now the bucktooth pigs are a race, and the jungle monkey leader doesn't want to take a big risk to grab food from the bucktooth pigs' mouths. Go, monkey cubs! The jungle monkey leader waved the mace in his hand, and left with the unwilling monkey cub on his face. As soon as the group of jungle monkeys left, the tusks gnawed on the dead jungle monkey carcasses on the ground. The crisp sound of broken bones sounded in the mouth of the buck-toothed pig, accompanied by the constant arching of a wild boar. It's time to enjoy the results. The bucktooth leader turned and looked at the skinny Olenna. Although this human is not even qualified to squeeze his teeth, he can try something new. Roar, get out of you humble boars. This is the treasure of the real dragon. At this moment Catalina finally rushed out and stood in front of Olenna. This is the first time Catalina has faced an opponent of this size. In the past, there was a Shilin standing next to her. Silver dragon, or a young dragon. The bucktooth pig head took the lead for a moment, and then showed an evil smile. If it were an adult dragon, then the bucktooth leader would definitely not even dare to fart. But Catalina looked like a baby dragon, with a full body length of only 6 meters by eye, and her own body length of 7 meters. Not all creatures are afraid of dragons. On the contrary, many creatures want to eat young dragons. In the cruel nature, the big ones will always eat the small ones. Who cares if you were a child? If an ordinary magical beast eats a young dragon, its aptitude will leap several levels. The bucktooth leader looked around and repeatedly confirmed that no adult female dragon was nearby. It just so happens that I haven't tasted the taste of dragon meat yet. Dragon meat is a more attractive delicacy than humans, and it is the lifelong pursuit of many magical beasts. Shut up, the wild boar. Every word of yours is tarnishing the real dragon. Katrina was angry for the first time, revealing sharp but slightly immature minions. The dragon tail on his body rushed out, covering the entire surrounding buck-toothed pigs, giving them a lot of pressure. It is a pity that the coercion of the young dragon is too weak, and it is basically dispensable in front of the adult bucktooth pig. Is this the legendary Longway? It's no big deal. Bucktooth smiled when he felt the pressure on his body. Something insignificant. I really don't know why the parents boast about how powerful Longway is. Catalina stopped talking. Her mouth let out a low roar, and the whole dragon was like a cat with blown-up fur, ready to fight at any time. Let me try the legendary silver dragon, how powerful it is. The little brother who was standing next to the leader of the buck-toothed pig rushed out, carrying his long fangs. Even the ground began to tremble as the bucktooth pig ran, and a dust and yellow smoke rose from behind his thighs. Foolish and humble wild boar. Katrina's mouth grew, and an extremely cold white gas condensed in her mouth, when it reached an extreme point. Boom! A breath of extreme cold erupted from her mouth, and the ice flow turned into a river and hit the bucktooth pig's body. Click! When the bucktooth fangs hit the ice stream, they quickly formed into ice cubes and broke apart, but this still couldn't stop him from moving forward. Bang! Catalina looked at the bucktooth pig close at hand, revealing her own dragon claws without saying a word, and patted the bucktooth pig on the head fiercely. The powerful force caused the bucktooth pig to fly out like a cannonball and smash it onto a big tree trunk. The bucktooth gradually twitched while lying under the tree. His face was covered with icy scum, and then his eyes lost their look. One-hit kill. It's worthy of being a dragon. Instead of being scared, the leader of the bucktooth pig became even more excited. At this time, Catalina was panting, and dragon breath could not be used unlimitedly. Each use of the dragon's breath will consume the dragon's physical and magical power. The weaker the dragon, the fewer times the dragon's breath will be used. Generally speaking, Catalina can spit out the dragon's breath 10 times, but this time she frightened the enemy back with one blow. Catalina specially increased the power of the dragon's breath, making her directly unable to continue to use the dragon's breath. What she never expected was that the leader of the bucktooth pig was not afraid of the slightest, and even more wary. Sure enough, it is a lowly and stupid creature. Katrina cursed in her heart. Very good young dragon, but it's a pity that you will die under my fangs soon. The bucktooth leader licked his own fangs, his hoofs were constantly rubbing the ground, and he was about to launch an attack. Come on, real dragon never fears the provocation of ants. Catalina also didn't fear the bucktooth pig at all, and she had no reason to be afraid of such lowly creatures. Boom! The bucktooth leader moved. The whole fat body turned out to be like an arrow shot at this time, and it came to Catalina in the blink of an eye. Get out of my lowly seed. A very majestic and oppressive voice came from overhead. The whisper of the wind, the whisper of the wind. A hurricane struck suddenly, and the ton of bucktooth leader was directly lifted out, fell to the ground, and slid for dozens of meters on the thick fur. What were you talking about? Shilin landed in front of Catalina. I didn't show up just now because I wanted to see how Catalina's strength was. Now it looks really good, but the combat experience is too bad. Obviously, it does not need to use all strength to kill a bucktooth pig. As a result, Catalina directly used all strength in order to achieve the intimidating effect. As a result, the bucktooth leader is not only not afraid, but also has a strong will to fight. Simply being here today, if Catalina had been a single dragon, she would have been gnawed by a fang pig a long time ago. Or Catalina can use magic to solve the bucktooth pig, but Catalina has long forgotten that she can magic. Wind Whispers is an ordinary second ring magic, but because Shilin itself is relatively strong. Even if it is the second ring magic, it looks as scary as the third ring magic. Big brother. Katrina smiled happily when she saw Shilin. She almost forgot that Big Brother was watching from above her head. Katerina, remember, you are a dragon, and you must know how to face danger without fear of everything. In the previous battle, you first used up your own dragon's breath and forgot to use magic. Shilin didn't give Katrina a hippie smile, he had to teach Katrina. A kind father is very good, but sometimes, Yan father's education is even more profound. I understand, big brother. Catalina lowered her head in confession, just like a child. It's good to know, I'll remember it next time. Shilin withdrew his gaze from Catalina, glanced at Olena, who had fainted a long time ago, and then set his gaze back on Tusk. At this time, the Bucktooth leader and his companion who had already gotten up were shivering under the pressure of Shilin's dragon. After seeing that Shilin was a juvenile dragon, the first thing the Bucktooth leader had to do was to take his companions to escape. But he didn't expect the terrible dragon power to swept over Shilin's body. It is different from the drizzle of Katrina in front. Shilin's long way is simply a downpour, making them afraid to move at all. Say what I just said again. Shilin said calmly. The Bucktooth pigs made no sound. Since there is not, then go to death. Fireball. A high-temperature fireball composed of raging fire spit out from Shilin's mouth. The big fireball, 10 meters wide, flew away like a small sun. There is only fire wherever you go. Boom! The earth-shaking explosion resounded through the mountains and forests. Countless magical beasts raised their heads and looked in the direction of Shilin. It's extremely dangerous there. Click, click, click. After the explosion disappeared, there was only the sound of trees burning and blowing up. Okay, so awesome. Katrina was stunned, the big brother's strength turned out to be so strong. 4 Bucktooth pigs can be killed by fireball alone. Fireball is a basic fire magic, and it is a kind of magic that all fire magicians must learn. This kind of magic has a magic, that is, the longer you chant, the greater the power of fireball and the more magic it consumes. Shilin didn't finish singing for a long time, but only increased the consumption output of magic power. Fireball at this moment belongs to the real 3-ring magic category. Don't be silly, eat barbecue. Shilin took the first step and walked to the side of the Bucktooth pig and ate their charred carcasses. Oh, good. Catalina quickly recovered and was about to eat, then thought of Olena behind her back, grabbed Olena and ran to Shilin. Well, it's burnt, control the heat next time. Shilin thought. Big brother, do you want to wake her up? Catalina put Olena in her hand on the ground and poked Olena with her long sharp claws. If it weren't for Olena's breathing, she suspected Olena was scared to death. Wake her up, she hasn't eaten yet. I don't care if she is hungry or not when flying. Shilin bit off a piece of tendon, put it in his mouth and chewed. Catalina listened to Shilin's words and blew a breath at Olena. Ache, it's so cold. Little Olena got up immediately, rubbing her slender arms. When the cold passed, Olena realized that she was surrounded by the carcasses of Bucktooth pigs, and the huge red dragon was next to her. Great, Olena just wanted to say something. Shilin moved the dragon's wings and said, don't call it that long, just call me the master for the time being. As for Catalina, look at her opinion. Shilin hadn't even thought of the name, so he asked Olena to call her master first. Hello, master. Olena quickly and obediently bent over and nodded, and then looked at Catalina. Catalina rolled her eyes and said wittily, you can call my mother master. Ahem, what is the mother master? Shilin, who was eating food, was shocked by Katrina's words. Look, big brother, Olena calls your master, then I am your little sister, and it happens to be a female dragon. It's okay to call my mother master. Catalina disagrees, she thinks the title she thinks is great. It means that, but is it a little too weird? Shilin's mouth twitched, mother. It might as well just let the hostess forget. I think it's okay. Catalina pursed her mouth. Shilin. Olena, whatever you do. Shilin covered her face speechlessly, and she was stupid as little sister. Olena is also a bit embarrassed as a human being. It's no problem to call Master Shilin. What is the name of the mother master? But as a servant, Olena has a reason to refuse. I didn't see the owner Shilin casually Catalina, so I just yelled. Under the strong appetite of the dragon Shilin, there was only one skeleton left on the ground in a blink of an eye. Gone. Shilin was going to fly to the Death Desert in one breath, so delaying time was not an option. Anyway, the hunger value of the dragon is very high, and it will not starve to death because of not eating for a few days. The average dragon can insist on not eating for half a year, but its strength will be weakened. If it's a sleeping dragon, you can insist on not eating for 1,000 years. As for Olena's ration, Shilin specially prepared some meat and put it in On's second stomach. If Olena is hungry by then, just vomit something to her. Don't worry, the dragon's second stomach is very clean, it's a place for treasures. Of course, Olena had no reason to refuse in front of Shilin. The servant only needs to obey the master's order. 3 days later, with the two dragons concentrating on their journey, Shilin and the others managed to fly out of the blazing mountain group within 3 days and arrived in the Death Desert. The Death Desert, as its name implies, is covered with yellow desert all over, where the sun is shining brightly, and it is obviously a red land. As Red Dragon, Shilin likes the feeling here, but the environment is a bit poor. It's so annoying, Catalina said while looking at the big sun above her head and the desolate desert below. It's worthy of being the Death Desert, there really isn't a creature that can be seen. Shilin looked down, and there were all arranged magical beast skeletons, which seemed to have been dead for some time. Big brother, I'm hungry. Katrina said what Shilin wanted to say now, her stomach was already empty. Go down and take a look. Shilin took Catalina to fly below and landed in the endless desert. Phew, the hot gale blew over them, Shilin felt refreshed, and Catalina was extremely uncomfortable. But fortunately, with the dragon scales, Catalina can barely accept the high temperature here, but Olena, a human being, is miserable. Now Olena's little face was flushed red, like a shy flower. Master, Olena is so hot. Olena only feels that she needs a glass of water now to relieve the current heat. Look, big brother, desert woods. Catalina excitedly pointed to the green woods ahead. Desert woods are the woods that are still growing in the desert. This is the greatest wealth in the desert. Well, go check it out. Shilin nodded, and at the same time was a little confused in his heart. Why didn't he see this forest in the sky? You must know that such a large forest, as long as you are not blind, you can see it clearly from high above. What's more, Shilin is a dragon, and the sight of the dragon is among the top 10 existences in the Western fantasy continent. 2 dragons, one red and one silver, walked into the desert woods. Comfortable. As soon as she entered the desert forest, Catalina felt the breath of the long-lost mountain forest. In the middle of the desert forest, there is a huge lake. Mother, your humble servant me, I want to drink water. Olena cautiously asked Katrina. Understand the servant, now your mother master will take you to the lake for a good play. Katrina looked at the lake and couldn't wait. After getting the consent of Shilin's eyes next to her, Catalina jumped out quickly. Bang! Catalina's huge body fell into the lake, sending a wave of more than 10 meters high. Ha! It's so cool. Katrina spit out a small stream of water from her mouth, and now she just feels unstoppable. Help! I can't swim. Olena's short legs thumped in the water, but her body kept sinking. Humble servant, let the great mother master save you. Catalina pretended to be noble, and easily supported Olena with her tail. Cough cough cough. Olena choked a lot of water from her mouth, and she almost scared her to death just now. Shilin looked at Katrina and the others, who were so happy, and squatted on the shore watching. Red Dragon hates water, and Shilin does the same. It's just that Shilin is not afraid of water, he just doesn't want to go into the water. The real giant Red Dragon entered the water, and the temperature erupted from the body surface was enough to evaporate the entire lake. Wow, Shilin breathed out on the shore, and the only bad thing about being a dragon was that he wanted to sleep too much. However, after flying for 3 full days, it is normal to feel a little sleepy. It was a joy to see Catalina playing with Olena in the water. So Shilin simply lay on the shore, his body was C-shaped on the ground, and the dragon's tail was placed in front of his eyes. As the eyelids got heavier and heavier, Shilin fell asleep directly. I don't know how long it has been. Where is this? After Shilin opened his eyes, he found that he was actually in a palace. The entire palace is made of sand, but it is more dazzling than gold. It is noble and mysterious everywhere, as if it is an ancient ruin, which has been asleep for a long time. Little Red Dragon, this is all the treasures of the Death Desert. Come on, find it. Let it be the most dazzling part of your dragon-born treasure. Ancient mysterious voices echoed in the desert palace, seducing Shilin all the time. Just as Shilin was about to walk into the palace to take a look. "Ah, big brother!" Katrina's shout suddenly appeared in Shilin's ear. At this moment, the surrounding scenes seemed to be regressing, and the desert palace disappeared into dust. Suddenly, Shilin opened his own vertical pupil, only to realize that everything just now was a dream. Catalina, who was originally playing in the water, was caught by two big tentacles similar to octopuses and was dragging into the lake. Roar! At this moment, the dragon is awake. The bonfire on Shilin's body swelled, and the blazing sun bursting out around him swept toward the big tentacles. Fire ring, blazing sun, fire ring. The circle formed by the flame crossed the big tentacles, and a fierce flame burned. The big tentacles were also cut off by the ring of fire at that moment, and Catalina was freed. Katrina quickly returned to Shilin and said anxiously, "Big brother, Olenna has been dragged down." What the hell happened? Shilin was not in a hurry to save Olenna. With the lucky lamb talent, Olenna shouldn't die in the hands of this magical beasts. Just now Olenna and I were splashing water on each other, but a tentacle grabbed me directly. I quickly dived into the lake and grabbed the tentacle, and then I just wanted to take Olenna to the sky. As a result, I was caught by two tentacles in midair, and Olenna also fell from my arms and was pulled down by the tentacles. By the way, big brother, I could see a pair of big glowing eyes when I dived underneath. Katrina quickly explained what happened next. I see. There was a hint of alert in Shilin's eyes. The dragon's vigilance is very high, even when it is sleeping, no disturbance can be hidden from his ears. Unless it's a deep sleep preparation, Ascension strength will definitely wake him up. And Shilin himself was just taking a nap, how could he not hear these movements? Is it related to the mysterious palace just now? When Shilin was a little confused, Catalina said anxiously, "Big brother, if you don't go down to save Olenna, our only servant may be dead." "Don't worry, she won't die so easily." Shilin regained consciousness and comforted Catalina, and then flew to the middle of the lake, watching the movement underneath. At this time the lake fell into silence again, as if nothing had happened before. The stern Long Tong stared at the lake intently, he wanted to see the situation directly through the surface. Bang! Sudden, 3 big tentacles came out of the lake directly, and tied Shilin's legs and a paw respectively. Then the tentacles started to drag Shilin into the invisible lake. Lian Long's idea is to dare to fight. I want to see what you are. Shilin did not choose to compete with the tentacles, but took the initiative to let the tentacles drag him into the lake. Katerina, stay on top and don't move. This was a word that Shilin left for Catalina when she entered the lake, and then Shilin disappeared in front of Catalina. Katrina is very anxious, but Big Brother's instructions are persuading her to act. Catalina hovered anxiously on the shore. She wanted to help Big Brother very much, but she was afraid of causing trouble to Big Brother. Knowing about Shilin's strength, she knew that Shilin had only been dragged down deliberately. But Big Brother is a red dragon, and underwater battles are not his battlefield, but instead limit his strength everywhere. Under the lake, as soon as Shilin entered the water, the flames on his body shrank into the dragon scales. This is the instinct of the red dragon's body. The raging fire in the water will actively return to the body to ensure the fire of life in the red dragon. In the dark water, Shilin was like a faintly glowing firefly, barely able to see ray of red light. The big light bulbs in front of Shilin were different, like searchlights in the deep sea, illuminating everything around him. In order to find out who the owner of the tentacle was, Shilin lost a system illustration book. Name: Akef. Biology: Deep Sea Diving Practitioner, Chaotic Evil, Youth Body. Attack: 410, Ordinary Juvenile Red Dragon 300. Defense: 301, Ordinary Juvenile Red Dragon 200. Speed: 100, Ordinary Juvenile Red Dragon 150. Physique: 500, Ordinary Juvenile Red Dragon 350. Item: Small Treasure Pile. Magic: None. Talent: Tentacle of Rebirth, Demigod level. Ability: Brute Force, Hand-to-hand Tugging, Camouflage. Evaluation: Only sneak attacks on despicable villains with brute force. Deep Sea Diving Practitioner. Shilin's eyes widened. How could there be a deep sea diving practitioner in this lake? After using the system illustrations to know who the enemy was, Shilin flipped through the dragon memory illustrations in his mind. Deep-sea diving practitioners, a monster with an average body length of 500 meters, mainly appear in the deep sea at a depth of 1,000 meters. My favorite is to use my camouflage characteristics to hide, and then attack the enemy with one move. Strength is considered to be the top level among magical beasts, but unfortunately only brute force is used, no magic at all. The whole body looks similar to a big octopus, the body color is not fixed, it depends on the surrounding environment. The tentacles of each adult deep-sea diving practitioner are 400 meters long, and there are as many as 15 tentacles on the body. And if it is broken in time, it can also grow out quickly within a minute. To kill this kind of deep-sea diving practitioner, he must blow his head, or heal the thief quickly. The template is the template of the berserker, but he has to be an assassin. It turns out to be a deep-sea diving practitioner. Tell me, how did you appear in such a small lake? When the barb on Shilin moved hard, the tentacles tied to him were instantly torn apart. As expected of the young red dragon, but you are in the water now, are you sure you can beat me? The deep-sea diving practitioner on the other side also spoke. Deep-sea diving practitioners are intelligent magical beasts, and they are all able to talk. Not every magical beasts can speak in the Western fantasy continent. Some powerful magical beasts are those who have no intelligence and don't know how to use the common language of mainland China. You haven't answered my question just now, chopsticks. Shilin's eyes swept across the deep-sea diving practitioner one by one, he was looking for Olena's position. Are you looking for that little girl? Don't worry, she is not dead yet. The deep-sea diving practitioner laughed. When they came to the shore in Shilin, he noticed Shilin. Human beings are one of the treasures of the dragon. This is something that magical beasts, the wisdom of the Western fantasy continent, knows. Shilin's body is still a juvenile dragon, even if the deep-sea diving practitioner is somewhat certain to defeat Shilin. But without 100% certainty, the deep-sea diving practitioners, the dragon's treasure, would not dare to embezzle it. Just like the monsters on Shishan Road, Sun Wukong hasn't caught it yet. How dare to move this piece of Tang Sang meat first? Since you know, then don't hand over Olena. Shilin's words were filled with a breath of non-rejection. The deep-sea diving practitioner seems to be comparing the strength of Shilin and own, and for a while, he dare not act rashly. Just now he easily dragged Shilin into the bottom of the lake. He thought that Shilin's strength was very weak, but he didn't expect it to be so strong. The tentacles were easily broken in the water. And the dragon is the one who bears the most grudges. This time he didn't kill the dragon. After the dragon slept for a while, it would be himself who died. After weighing the disadvantages outweigh the advantages. Dear Red Dragon, please forgive me for the vulgar words I just said, and I will return your wealth to you. The deep-sea diving practitioner took Olena out from behind. At this time, Olena was wrapped in a ball of bubbles, so that she was not drowned in water. After taking Olena and carefully observing that she was fine, Shilin admired the lucky lamb again, which was not dead. The great red dragon, your treasure has been returned to you, and we owe nothing to each other. The deep-sea diving practitioner said respectfully. None of you. Who owes you? Now you have only two options. 1. Be my follower. 2. That is to be buried in the bottom of this lake forever. Shilin used wind magic to send Olena up, and then looked at the deep-sea diving practitioner. How could it be so simple to want the dragon's forgiveness? No, your words don't count. Akfa roared at Shilin, his body moved angrily, stirring up a whirlpool. My words don't count. When will I promise you to return Olena and forgive you? Shilin never promised Akfo from the beginning to the end, it was Akfo's own wishful thinking. Ah, I want you to pay the red dragon. Akfo was completely furious, what about even the young red dragon? I am a young deep-sea diving practitioner. The 5 tentacles suddenly attacked Shilin, like stone pillars. Shilin watched the attacking tentacles without fear, and the dragon's breath in his mouth was already ready to be continued. When he said that sentence, Shilin knew that Akef would definitely be unhappy. In the water, your fire won't work, ha ha ha. Seeing Shilin's mouth wide open, Akfer knew that the other party was going to use dragon's breath. Fire. When did I say to breathe with flames? Shilin shot a jumble of white electric currents in his mouth, creaking there. Lightning. No, you are a red dragon. Akfar's eyes widened in disbelief. Why would a red dragon breathe with the lightning of a blue dragon? This is unscientific. Boom. Flutters of thunder sounded in Shilin's mouth, and then the next moment, like a running wild horse, flew towards Akfo. Roar. The lightning turned into a thunder dragon as it proceeded, and it struck Akfar's body with the sound of the dragon's roar. What? The violent lightning flooded Akfar, and the dazzling electric light illuminated everything at the bottom of the surrounding lake for a while. Even the golden treasure pile behind Akfar was shining brightly. Akfar groaned in pain, and all his tentacles curled up together, as if his whole body had shrunk. I'll give you one last chance. Live, or die. The acid breath in Shilin's mouth is ready. Live, live, great dragon lord, you are my lifelong pursuit. The place where your claws point is where I fight for you. Akfar wanted to be hard-headed and you couldn't kill me, but the acid breath in Shilin's mouth almost scared him to death. Even if you have a red dragon breathing out lightning, you can even breathe out acid. In order to survive Akfar, he hurriedly read the dragon's oath. After reading the dragon's oath, Akef will never betray him forever, or he will be punished by the rule gods. Every dragon's oath is different, and it mainly depends on how much the person concerned will compliment the dragon. It's not much easier to do this long ago. Shilin put away the acid in his mouth and breathed out. After so many days out of the nest, he finally received the second family member. And this dependent is not a vase like Olena, but a real combat power. After seeing that the acid in Shilin's mouth disappeared, Akef was completely relieved and almost finished playing. How could a young dragon be so powerful? Dear Dragon Lord, this is my meeting gift for you. Now that he had agreed to Shilin and said the oath of the dragon, Akfar simply handed the pile of golden treasures behind him to Shilin. Deep-sea diving practitioners don't particularly like treasures. What they like is collecting loot from their prey. Because of the long time spent at the bottom of the lake, Akfo has accumulated this small pile of treasures. Very good. Shilin smiled happily, and finally he has a treasure that belongs to own. He sent all the treasures into his belly and swam upward with Akfar. Ashore, Catalina awakened Olena in the bubble, and hurriedly asked about the situation below. But Olena, who was in a coma, didn't know what it was. Now Catalina wants to dive into the water to find out. Bang! At this moment, there was movement on the surface of the water, and Shilin's body flew out of the water. Big brother! Katrina turned her sorrow into joy, and Big Brother finally came out. But then, Catalina found the tentacles behind Shilin's ass. Big brother, be careful. Unknowingly, Catalina spit out her own frosty breath at the tentacle. Snapped. As a result, Shilin casually slapped the next one, and Akfar's head was finally exposed. A shiny bitternegg head, and a pair of big eyes 5 or 6 meters wide. Akfar is a young deep-sea diving practitioner, and his tentacles are more than 300 meters long. The light tentacles accounted for 2/3. Clarify the situation before taking action. Shilin came to Catalina and gave this little sister a brainstorm. Oh, I'm not worried about you, Big Brother. Katrina touched her head aggrievedly. Introduction. This is the second family member of the Red Dragon Empire, Akef, a deep-sea diving practitioner. Shilin introduced Akfo's identity, name and race. Deep-sea diving practitioner. Shouldn't it be in the sea? Katrina was full of question marks at this time, and she, who had the memory of the dragon race, quickly found the deep-sea diving practitioner. That is a monster whose only life is in the sea. I am also very puzzled about this. Shilin looked at Akfar, and he was waiting for Akfar to explain. Seeing Shilin's gaze toward him, Akfar hurriedly explained his own life experience. He was originally a deep-sea diving practitioner in the merrily waters in life. It's just that there was an accident in the sea at that time, and he was arrested by humans not long after he was born. It is worth mentioning that, regardless of the size of the deep-sea diving practitioner, the babies born are only the size of human babies, and can only give birth to one child at a time. Akef, who has separated from his mother, has only the fate of being captured by humans. In order to protect himself, Akfar wrapped his whole body, but it was only a cover for ears and bells. The group of human ships took him ashore for sale, and was finally spotted by a nobleman. As a result, he passed the Death Desert in the process of transporting him. Encountered the Death Storm, a rare occurrence in a century. All humans panicked, but Akfo, who was packed in a box, was well protected by the box. In the end, the dust storm swept him into the sky, and he appeared here when Akfa woke up again. The box just happened to be smashed, and Akfa took the opportunity to dive into the lake and stayed there for 50 years. After 50 years of changes, he finally became a young deep-sea diving practitioner. This story is too fantastic, right? Catalina could hear her mouth twitching beside her, drifting all the way from the Merrily waters to here. Shilin was also a little surprised, but he didn't expect Akfar's experience to be so bumpy. However, Shilin felt that he was also a magical beast with lucky talent, and he could not die. That group of human caravans has long since become a skeleton in the desert. I said it's no wonder that such a large desert forest, not even a magical beast, was scared away by you. Shilin chuckled. Who said no? Dragon Lord, I haven't eaten anything for half a month. I can only catch some small shrimps in the water that have been on the shore to satisfy my hunger. Akfar was so hungry, otherwise he wouldn't play the idea of the young dragon Shilin. There are a lot of creatures in the desert woods, but the average is only more than 20 kilograms. For a big guy like Akfar, that is not enough to eat. If this is changed to the deep sea, the food for the deep sea diving practitioners will be those whales. Since you have been here for 50 years, you should know what races are nearby. Shilin asked. Now Shilin probably guessed why Danier called herself here, and it should have a certain relationship with that desert palace. In order to find out what the desert palace is, Zilina had to ask the natives here. Nearby race. Akfar blinked and said, actually, I don't know. I only know that I have eaten horned lizards, dune raiders, and rotten bones. By the way, I've seen the demon girl in the desert, but she ran too fast, I didn't get it. Akfar recalled what On had seen and heard in the past 50 years. Unexpectedly, there are desert demon girls here. Shilin's eyes lit up. The desert demon girl is relatively rare among monsters, and the place where it appears is the desert. They are not in groups, but acting alone. When necessary, a special call will be made and you can call your companions around you. They are a kind of magic monster, know how to use earth magic, and the powerful desert demon priestess can also undead magic. The horned lizard is a kind of magical beasts commonly found in the desert. Dune attackers are magical beasts hiding in the sand, usually hiding in the sand to attack their prey. Rotten bones are no longer original creatures in the desert. They are all made from the bones of dead magical beasts. The ones in the desert are called desert rotten bones. Those in the forest are called forest decayed bones. Anyway, it depends on where they die. The formation of the rotten bone must rely on the transformation of undead magic. All Shilin had some doubts whether the desert demon priestess here used undead magic to convert some rotten bones. By the way, do you know the desert palace? Shilin asked suddenly. Desert palace. Akfar shook his head and said, sorry, the great dragon lord, I have never heard of this. Have not heard. Shilin frowned slightly. Akfo had never heard of this desert palace. But Shilin was sure that the Death Desert was definitely this palace, and the dragon's memory would not deceive himself. The most important thing is that in the memory of the dragon clan, Shilin has not found a record of the desert palace. What to do next, big brother? Catalina looked at the desolate desert around her, not knowing where to start to build the prototype of the empire. I want some dependents. Akfar will be handed over to you. Shilin said. Akfar quickly lowered his body and said humbly, the great dragon master, stupid servant doesn't understand what to do. Have you seen this human girl? Shilin used the dragon's tail to push Olena to Akef's eyes. I see, great dragon master. Akef's eyes lit up. The reason why those monsters didn't come was that the attraction of the desert woods was not enough. But as long as Olena is placed at the door, it is enough to attract some magical beasts who dare to work hard. When magical beasts were attracted by then, Akfar shot and grabbed them. It is up to them to decide whether to follow Shilin or die here. Olena, who was in a coma, was pitifully used as bait by Shilin again. Now Shilin was very fortunate to have taken Olena, which was the best bait. Fly over the sand dunes. There is nothing to eat in this desert. A sand dune attacker rushed out of the sand, facing the burning sun above his head and cursed. Dune raiders are 3 meters long and resemble arthropods like insects, but they are humanoids, standing upright, with a total of 6 hands on their bodies. The color of the whole body is mainly earthy brown, and the mouth also has a pair of long jaws, which can easily crush the bones of the prey. Our life is like this. We are not used to staying in the jungle. A sand dune attacker came and said when he drilled out of the pile of dirt. As desert creatures, their hunger value is very, very high. The dragon avoids hunger by sleeping. The dune attackers rely on the powerful stomach in their stomachs. Food the size of a small deer is enough to digest for a whole month by the dune raiders. Bang! At this time, a sand dune attacker with a body size of 5 meters came out, with brown cloth strips hanging on his body. His name is Peeps Bolton, and he is the leader of the entire tribe of dune raiders. Their tribe is called the Blade Tribe, and there are nearly 100 raiders in the entire tribe. Leader, why don't we change our position to ambush, and 11 clansmen have starved to death. The attacker next to him bared his head and said. The Blade Tribe kept guarding this land for half a month, but in the end there was not even a horned lizard passing by. If it hadn't been for the support of the dead companion's corpse, it would have all starved to death. The desert forest next to it is occupied by a smelly octopus. Peeps said angrily. There are a lot of creatures in the desert woods, and the resources there are extremely rich. It's a pity that there is a very big octopus, so they don't dare to approach it at all. Or the leader, let's try our luck in the desert woods. Anyway, the big octopus usually stays in the water. The attacker next to him continued. They are so hungry and begging for wealth and wealth, if they escape the tentacles of the big octopus, they won't have to worry about food for the next few months. Okay, companions, I, Peeps, will definitely lead everyone to become the strongest tribe in the Death Desert. Whoever agrees to go to the desert woods now, wave your powerful jaw lightly. Peeps shouted loudly. Click, click, click. Numerous voices sounded in the sand, and then the attackers crawled out of the sand. Without exception, the raiders of the Blade Tribe are already hungry and thirsty. They want food. Then go ahead. Peeps took the lead to advance toward the desert woods, followed by the mighty group of attackers behind him. The desert forest is not too far away from the Blade Tribe, about a dozen kilometers away. For such an assailant who is eager for food, their speed is simply outrageous. But even if they speeded up the journey, they still walked for a long time. No way, why did the attackers' original speed be slower? Boss, here we are. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.